Chapter 225 Outer World, Cave. Jiang Qiong briefly introduced the formidable aspects of the Blood Domain's soul-suppressing tower. This tower could suppress enemies. Once trapped within, they would lose their way and find it extremely difficult to escape. Moreover, they would constantly endure the burning of the blood flames within the tower, and if reduced to only their soul, there would be no chance of escape. According to the divine exotic immortal spirit, the Blood Domain's soul-suppressing tower was absolutely one of the top 3 immortal treasures within divine exotic city, which was also the reason cultivators of the 7-star spirit realm sought it out. Most of the treasures within divine exotic city were plundered. Some were seized by former owners from enemies, and others were left behind by adventurers after their deaths. The Blood Domain's soul-suppressing tower had a long-standing reputation over the ocean and was considered a legendary supreme immortal treasure. Guan often exclaimed in amazement, which caused Jiang Qiong to involuntarily smile. Watching Gu An's inexperienced expression, she did not feel annoyed. Instead, she found it amusing. In other places, her cultivation level was insignificant, but in front of Gu An, she was a great cultivator. Even though many people looked down on her, as long as Guan admired her, it was enough. Jiang Qiong then recounted her experiences from past years, including the founding of the Juhua sect. Guan listened attentively, even though he often used his divine sense to keep an eye on Jiang Qiong. Hearing stories directly from her was more interesting. Night passed. By noon the next day, Guan leaped out of the medicine cauldron and quickly put on his robe. Jiang Qiong approached him, scrutinizing him with amazement, and said, "I didn't expect your absorption speed to be so quick." Guan precisely controlled his qi blood, ensuring Jiang Qiong did not notice any issues. "Thank you," Guan said earnestly. Jiang Qiong thought to herself that this kid still wouldn't call her martial master. She would have been angry in the past, but now she felt a hint of delight. She raised her head and said, "Practice your sword well. Your sword Dao talent is outstanding. As for your cultivation level, I will find a way to help you improve. This isn't appropriate. You should keep it for yourself. Giving it to me is a waste." Guan hesitated, genuinely grateful to Jiang Qiong. Having this intention was enough. There was no need to take it seriously. If combat prowess had a numerical value, with Jiang Qiong's help last night, Gu An's combat power would have successfully increased from 100 billion to 100 billion and 1. Indeed, it had enhanced, but this slight increase in value was more valuable to Jiang Qiong. Jiang Qiong snorted. "Rest assured, I won't delay my cultivation." Guan had to give up. Jiang Qiong asked Guan about his experiences over the years, and Guan did not hide anything, but as she listened, Jiang Qiong became increasingly unable to withstand it. Planting herbs. Why are you always planting herbs?" Jiang Qiong exclaimed. Guan pouted. "Yeah, just planting herbs. What else do you expect me to have experienced?" Don't underestimate herb planting. Different medicinal herbs bring different feelings. He began to enthusiastically recount his planting experiences. Jiang Qiong suppressed the irritability in her heart and listened carefully. Gradually, her mood calmed down. To her surprise, listening to Guan talk about his farming life was quite interesting, bringing her thoughts back to her childhood. Time flew by. Until nightfall, Jiang Qiong bid farewell and left. Guan did not leave the 8 scenic caves, planning to go out early the next morning. In the following winter, discussions about divine exotic city spread throughout the Supreme Sect cities, and Li Ya's name reverberated throughout the immortal cultivation world, surpassing Sword Venerable Fu Dao and Panin. Many believed that with the control of divine exotic city, Liu would become an immortal in the future. Moreover, Liu was very young, and some already call him the best of the younger generation, even surpassing in Hao. Li Ya's prominence did not affect Gu An's life. With the capture of divine exotic city, many great cultivators overseas left, but some cultivators stayed behind, joining various sects, with the Supreme Sect absorbing the most. Because Leah hailed from the Supreme Sect, with control of divine exotic city, Leah didn't need to wait for the future. He possessed power beyond a loose immortal, to the extent that even wandering immortals couldn't do anything to him. In this way, a new spring arrived. That year, the Supreme Sect's New Year celebrations were livelier than ever. It was said that the Supreme Sect was preparing to head south in search of an island to establish a city, with the support of the Starseed congregations, making the task much easier. After the New Year, the Supreme Sect began recruiting disciples for the Southern Sea Expedition, with 10,000 openings and excellent benefits, leading to active registrations across all cities. Guin remained busy harvesting medicinal herbs, occasionally worrying about the seven-star spirit realm stirring up trouble. Among the conflicts sparked by Divine Exotic City, the seven-star spirit realm suffered the most losses, but they currently appeared very calm, which made Guin even more suspicious that they were brewing something. By March, the disciples of the Supreme Sect gradually put the matter of Divine Exotic City aside. On this day, Guin went to the Outer Sect Book Collection Hall to hand over the last volume of Journey to the West. Despite the great elder Feng Shang's earnest attempts to persuade him to stay, Guin found an excuse to leave. Not far from the book collection hall, a figure blocked Guin. It was Yu Ying from the Star Sea congregations, disguised as a chubby man, looking jovial. "Brother Gu, how have you been lately?" Yu Ying asked with a smile, having used the sound transmission skill to reveal her true identity to Guin in advance. Guin replied with a smile, "Pretty good. How about you?" He couldn't understand why Yu Ying always enjoyed shape-shifting. What was the fun in it? Within the Supreme Sect, her reputation wasn't widespread, making her actions pointless. "I'm quite well, too. Lately, I've been really bored. How about I go to Medicine Valley to help you out?" Yu Ying asked. Guin hesitated for a moment and agreed, then directed her to the third Medicine Valley. Upon hearing this, Yu Ying was immediately delighted and pulled Guin towards her own residence to pack her things. "Your Supreme Sect has produced a Liya. With the support of the Star Sea congregations, you'll definitely rise to prominence. In the future, we'll at least assist you," Yu Ying remarked as she walked, her tone slightly emotional. She had not expected that amidst the scramble of so many great cultivators, an obscure minor cultivator would gain Divine Exotic City's approval. As a member of the Star Sea congregations, she deeply understood the might of the fake immortal treasure, believing that Leo would undoubtedly become a significant great cultivator over the ocean. "That's great news," Guin responded, trying to act surprised. Following this, Yu Ying began describing those powerful Immortal Path Supreme Treasures to Guin. The Star Sea Primordial Unity banner of the Star Sea congregations was said to invert the stars and ocean within the formation, causing those who entered to become forever lost. It could harness the power of stars and the ocean to change the course of events. The Seven Stars Mirror of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm contained ancient power, under whose light nothing could hide. Guin found this very intriguing. He wondered what cultivation level was needed to craft an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. When he reached that level, he also planned to create one, making early plans to avoid panic when the time came. Spring went and autumn came. 5 years passed quickly. After Leah took Divine Exotic City, the mainland enjoyed peace. The Supreme Sect successfully established a city overseas, with even the Outer Sect having a transmission array platform leading to Southern Sea City. More and more disciples began training at sea, and news from the ocean continually arrived at the Supreme Sect. Since the completion of the teleportation array in Southern Sea City, Guin saw new things in the Outer Gate City whenever he went, making him feel like he was at a fair. In early summer, Guin arrived at Immortal Seeking Island. Led by the servant Hu Xiaojian of the Sea Protection Mansion, Guin strolled around Immortal Seeking Island, listening to the various disturbances on the sea. The friction between the Star Sea congregations and the Seven-Star Spirit Realm is increasing. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm has gone mad, constantly invading the Star Sea congregation's territories. It's said to be related to an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure from 5 years ago. On a distant continent, the Seven-Star Spirit Realm released an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure for others to contest, which was eventually obtained by a minor cultivator. The Starseed congregations then recruited that minor cultivator, thoroughly offending the Seven Stars spirit realm, who Xiaojian said with a sigh. Guan asked, why would the Seven Stars spirit realm release the Immortal Path's supreme treasure? He had wondered about this before, finding it very puzzling. The divine exotic immortal spirit also didn't know the reason, thinking it was because it was being too powerful, making it impossible for the Seven Stars spirit realm cultivators to find. So, they released Divine Exotic City. But considering it from the Seven Stars spirit realm's perspective, even if they couldn't conquer Divine Exotic City themselves, they shouldn't give other powers the chance. Hu Xiaojian pondered. It does seem unreasonable. Perhaps the Seven Stars spirit realm needed an excuse to declare war on the Starseed congregations, but using an Immortal Path's supreme treasure as bait seems too exaggerated. The two continued chatting as they walked. Guan wasn't worried about causing trouble with the topic, since the surrounding cultivators were all discussing the conflicts between the two great maritime powers. Half a day later, Guan left Immortal Seeking Island and arrived at Heavenly Phoenix Mountain's Ninshu Cave, bringing Tian Yaoer, Tian Qing, and Tian Bai into the Grotto Heaven. He took out the seeds he bought today and had the three demons plant them. Though Tian Qing and Tian Bai had not yet shape-shifted, their nimble claws made them capable of handling the planting duties. While they were planting, Guan went to the entrance of the Grotto Heaven, using his mana to create a stele and then inscribed characters with his sword Qi. Outer World Cave. The meaning was to be forever isolated from the world. In the future, Guan wouldn't bring others here to live. This would always be his secluded medicine valley, specifically providing him with a longer lifespan. Because the seeds planted in the Outer World Cave were all high-rank seeds of level 7 or above, no medicinal herbs had matured yet. He wasn't in a hurry, patiently waiting. When the first batch of herbs matured, it would bring him a significant increase in lifespan, something he eagerly anticipated. 2 ancient hours later, Guan took them out of the Outer World Cave, walking along the underground passage towards Ninshu Cave. I've prepared shape-shifting elixirs for you. You can shape-shift in the next few days, Guan said as he walked ahead. Upon hearing this, Tian Qing and Tian Bai were overjoyed and hurriedly came forward to thank their master for his gift. Demons could achieve shape-shifting through their own cultivation, but the shape-shifting elixir could speed up the process and increase the success rate. If they relied on themselves for shape-shifting, failure would mean death or severe injury, similar to crossing a tribulation. Master, what about me? Tian Yaoer asked as she held Tian Bai, squeezing him beside Guan with a pitiful expression. Guan replied, I've prepared a batch of Qi blood enhancing elixirs for you. The elixirs he prepared for Tian Yaoer weren't ones he refined, but were purchased on Immortal Seeking Island, worth a fortune, and made by the top alchemy sect on the sea, the Purple Pill Palace. Chapter 226. Sudden Change in the Sea. Strange Fragrance. Guan did not personally oversee the shape-shifting of Tian Qing and Tian Bai. With Tian Yaoer around, he believed the two cat demons would be fine. Tian Yaoer's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the core formation realm, capable of handling matters independently. Guan first returned to the Mystic Valley, taking a few laps around the valley before heading to the 3rd Medicine Valley. The number of servant disciples in the 3rd Medicine Valley had increased to 800. As soon as he stepped out of the transmission array platform, he heard a commotion. He glanced up and saw some disciples sweeping, some patrolling the area, and others practicing spells. Under the distant trees, some were playing chess and Go. Guan was lenient in managing the disciples. As long as they completed their daily tasks, they could arrange their time freely. In the 3rd Medicine Valley, not all disciples were idle. Most harbored ambitions of becoming outer disciples, so they worked diligently to please Guan and obtain elixirs. Guan walked towards his pavilion. The Blood Prison Great Saint was dozing on the grass below the pavilion, nature's spiritual energy slowly flowing into his body. Suddenly, the pavilion door opened, and Yu Ying beckoned to Guan. Seeing this, Guan sighed helplessly and walked over. This pavilion belonged to Lu Lingjun. After Divine Exotic City was taken by Liya, Lu Lingjun returned. She was in seclusion for cultivation until Yu Yingying entered the valley, causing a change. The two of them unexpectedly got along well. Having heard that Lu Lingjun was a great cultivator in the mystic heart realm, Yu Yingying became intrigued and approached her, successfully befriending her through her Star Sea congregation's background. Guan didn't need to enter the pavilion to know what they would discuss. It was definitely about establishing the Ascension sect. Guan was also forcibly pulled into their plan. As long as he provided medicinal herbs, he could secure a high-level seat in the future. Upon entering, Yu Yingying closed the door. Guan walked into the hall. Lu Lingjun was sitting at the table, which was covered in papers, with a small white snake coiled on them. He sat down, teasing the white spirit demon emperor, enjoying stroking its snake head. The white spirit demon emperor, having concealed its cultivation, was usually docile. Besides, Lu Lingjun had privately instructed it, so it had to comply with Gu An's actions. Yu Yingying quickly sat beside Guan, excitedly saying, "Recently, my people have tracked the whereabouts of ascenders, and there's more than one." Guan responded irritably, "You dragged me into this just for that? I have no intention of leaving the Supreme Sect." He wondered what Lu Lingjun had said to make this native Yu Yingying so obsessed with creating the Ascension sect. Moreover, Yu Yingying, though only in the Foundation establishment realm, had many spies at sea. Previously, Guan overheard their conversation and learned that Yu Yingying's grandfather was one of the Sea Lords of the Star Sea congregations, meaning he was at least in the wandering Immortal realm. Guan felt quite unsettled about this. He had known Yu Yingying first, but she hadn't confided in him, instead revealing everything to Lu Lingjun. Since you two are so close, why not just soar to great heights together? Yu Yingying giggled. Of course, it's not about asking you to invite them. With your cultivation level, seeing them would be quite difficult. I'm just informing you that the framework of the Ascension sect is almost formed. Lu Lingjun nodded, saying, "I plan to establish the Ascension sect outside the 3 dynasties. The Supreme Sect will also support us." To this, Guan was not surprised. The position of the Taitsong dynasty was too awkward, located at the southernmost part of the continent. The spirit mines discovered by the Supreme Sect in the Demon Clan's territory were constantly plundered by other sects, preventing the sect from expanding to the north. If the Ascension sect could be established, other sects might not target it. In the future, the cooperation between the two sects would certainly hinder the development efforts of other sections. Regarding the sect competition in the 3 dynasties area, Guan had no intention of intervening. The Supreme Sect had not been gathering disciples or seeking Sword Venerable Fudeo's help, as both the Venerable Pavilion and the Hall of Elders were harboring pent-up frustrations, determined to elevate the Supreme Sect to the foremost sect among the 3 dynasties. Lu Lingjun said, "I plan to personally head south. I'm just letting you know, so you won't wonder where I went." Guan said, "You don't need to report your whereabouts to me." Huh? Lu Lingjun glanced at him, her gaze slightly cold. Guan pouted and said no more. Yu Yingying began excitedly detailing the information on the Ascenders. There were 5 in total, 3 males and 2 females, residing on an island within the Starseed congregation's domain. The weakest among them had reached the Unification realm, with 2 having reached the Mystic Heart realm. There were actually many Ascenders overseas. Once they understood the survival rules of this world, they no longer hid their origins. After all, cultivators here couldn't ascend to the lower realms, and they weren't interested in the lower realms. Guan listened attentively, contemplating the impact if the Ascension sect truly established itself in the immortal cultivation world on the continent. Ascenders might not have the highest cultivation, but their survival skills and temperament were formidable. Whether Lu Lingjun could win them over remained uncertain to Guan. An hour later, Lu Lingjun left with the White Spirit Demon Emperor. Guan and Yu Yingying saw them off. As Lu Lingjun's figure disappeared into the sky, Yu Yingying looked at Guan, patted his shoulder, and laughed. "When the Ascension sect is established, you could be counted as an elder. Your destiny will change. Remember to thank me." Guan looked at her, curiously asking, "You're not even an Ascender." Why are you so enthusiastic? Once the Ascension sect was established, those without Ascension experience would surely be marginalized or scorned, as the sect's teachings would focus on gathering Ascenders. It's interesting. In this lifetime, if you could do a few notable things, it wouldn't be a waste of time in this mortal world. If you could leave a mark, that would be even better, Yu Yingying said matter-of-factly. Guan was surprised. With your background, why do you sound like? He noticed that in her true form, Yu Yingying had a peculiar causal force within her, limiting her spiritual power's growth. Once her cultivation couldn't progress, even with a maximum lifespan of 5,000 years, Yu Yingying would surely die at the age of 400. Yu Yingying looked at him and sniffed. Right? I already know my fate. In this lifetime, I can't pursue the immortal path. With that, she turned and left, not wanting to continue the conversation with Guan Gu, and didn't press further. Having come this far, he asked a single question, as he wouldn't involve himself in Yu Yingying's fate. He couldn't ensure his junior sister's immortality, so he wasn't qualified to help others. He turned and went back inside to practice alchemy, planning to bring the elixirs to the outer gate city in a few days. The time came to the end of summer. In the Third Medicine Valley, Guan was studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles when he suddenly felt something, casting his gaze outside the window, frowning slightly. Why has this guy been so restless recently? Guan pondered in confusion. In the past month, Liu repeatedly used the power of divine exotic city, starting anew today. Liu was far from him, and he couldn't capture him with divine sense due to the prohibitions of the Star Sea congregations along the way. He didn't want to alarm their great cultivators. Even without using divine sense, he could learn about Li Ya's situation through the mental connection with the divine exotic immortal spirit. After a moment of hesitation, Guan inquired the divine exotic immortal spirit with his mind. Soon, the spirit informed him of the reason. Liu was exploring a secret realm, one of the legacy secret realms of the Star Sea congregations. If he succeeded, had gained the ancient legacy of the congregations. With the power of divine exotic city, Liu had already reached the final challenge, facing the remnants of the inheritor's soul, with the army of divine soul demons unable to capture it for a while. Knowing the reason, Guan stopped worrying. Liu had been with the Star Sea congregations for over 5 years. If they had intended to harm him, they would have done so long ago. It seemed the congregations genuinely wanted to nurture him. Guan withdrew his gaze and continued studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles in his hand. Time continued to pass. An hour later, boom! A deafening roar from afar interrupted Gu An's thoughts once again. What's special about today? Why is there so much commotion? Guan muttered quietly, sending his divine sense towards the source of the sound. Before long, his expression changed dramatically. Reflected in his pupils was an endless ocean. At this moment, a gigantic fissure appeared in the ocean, continuously expanding. The seawater furiously rushed into the fissure, forming a spectacular waterfall. The deep fissure stretched for miles. Guan sensed other divine senses being drawn to the ocean fissure and many cultivators heading towards it. The ocean was to the west of the continent. Gu An's divine sense traveled a long way, discovering the fissure extended for tens of thousands of miles and was still growing, seemingly dividing the ocean in two. Strangely, despite the seawater pouring into the fissure, the sea level didn't drop but maintained its majestic sight. Fortunately, the ocean fissure was far from the continent, with a landmass in between. Guan retracted his divine sense and continued reading, planning to visit Immortal Seeking Island later for information. On Immortal Seeking Island, Gu could always hear various significant oceanic events. Late at night, Guan arrived at Ninshu Cave, walking towards the stone table. As soon as his footsteps sounded, 2 fragrances greeted him. Next, his arms were embraced, sinking into softness. Master! Greetings, Master! 2 enchanting women clung to Gu An's arms, one in a blue dress, the other in a white dress. They had graceful figures and delicate features, gazing at Gu with eyes like rippling water. They were Tianqing and Tianbai after shape-shifting. Guan, wearing a mask, asked, "What's that smell on you?" Tianqing tilted her head and said, "It's a special water mist made. It gives off a distinctive fragrance, masking our demon scent, so Master won't dislike us." Guan remained silent, inwardly satisfied. The newly shape-shifted Tianqing and Tianbai indeed had a foul demon scent, which made him reluctant to be close to them before. Allowing them to hold him, Guan walked towards the small building. The two cat demons chattered nonstop, just like Tian Yaoer. Soon, Tian Yaoer emerged from the house, beaming as she approached Guan, expecting praise. Unfortunately, Guan didn't mention the fragrance, but asked about her cultivation progress. Chapter 227 Immortal King Guan sat at the stone table, enjoying Tianqing and Tianbei's shoulder and leg massages. He cast his gaze toward Tian Yaoer, occasionally giving remarks on her limitless freedom step, feeling quite content. Tian Yaoer felt rather frustrated, but had no choice but to listen. After a long while, Guan finally stopped his pointers to her and said, "Tianqing, Tianbai, today I will teach you a divine skill. Do you wish to learn?" Upon hearing this, the two girls immediately nodded, their eyes shining with excitement. Guan raised his hand, using his index finger to touch their foreheads. In an instant, their bodies stiffened, and a figure practicing divine skills was reflected in their pupils, their postures constantly changing. He imparted the Taoist gang primal energy to them. Tianqing and Tianbai needed many years to master it, which would also help them settle down. During the massages, their hands had been a bit restless, which made Guan slightly displeased, hence a small punishment. Tian Yaoer sat down and curiously asked, "Master, what divine skill are you teaching them?" Guan briefly introduced the Taoist gang primal energy, which piqued Tian Yaoer's interest, and she began to coquettishly beg him to teach her. Having spent so much time together, Guan found it hard to refuse Tian Yaoer's requests, so he nodded in agreement. This made Tian Yaoer very excited. Her eyes darted around, thinking of something, unable to contain her smile. Once the two cat demons regained their senses, Guan let them go to practice. As they left, Tian Yaoer approached again, eagerly leaning her forehead forward with her eyes closed. Seeing her acting like a damsel waiting to be picked, Guan cursed her as a demon under his breath, then began imparting the divine skill. After teaching the divine skill, while Tian Yaoer was still immersed in the inherited memories, Guan began picking medicinal herbs. Tianqing and Tianbai were very restless. Wherever Guan went, they would practice nearby, constantly chatting with him. It wasn't until dawn that Guan finally left. As autumn arrived, the weather became slightly cool. Guan crossed several seas and reached Immortal Seeking Island. Sure enough, news of the ocean rift had already spread across Immortal Seeking Island, and everyone was talking about it. It was said that the rift was still continuously expanding, making it impossible to gauge its length. The width alone reached 100 miles, causing unease, as if the entire mortal world was about to split in two. During this time, Guan even saw heaven and earth flying immortal approaching the ocean rift, but they were powerless as well. "Senior, I heard a legend. Long ago, the mortal world was submerged by the ocean. Countless Taoist traditions perished. When the ocean receded, all beings returned to living on land, and sects sprang up like bamboo shoots after a rain. One of those sects was the Red Dust sect. The sect master of Red Dust sect created the immortal path supreme treasure, divine exotic city, which suppressed the mortal world and achieved the position of immortal king. Before the Red Dust sect master fell, he split the ocean in two. Then his body fell and was buried at the bottom of the sea. His realm was unimaginable, and some say it was the power of his bones that cracked the ocean. No one knows if it's true." Hu Shaojian followed beside Guan, speaking mysteriously. "Red Dust sect, divine exotic city?" Upon hearing this, Guan suddenly felt that the ocean rift was related to the Seven Stars spirit realm. The seven-star spirit realm first released the divine exotic city, then created the ocean rift. What was their true intention? Help me gather all the legends and records of immortal kings throughout history, Gwyn instructed. Previously, the ghost mother of Ephemera had sent the 9 Nether 13 evil to deliver the immortal king crown to Gu, and hidden beneath the crown were the bones and soul of the evil emperor. Gwyn buried the immortal king crown at the bottom of a lake in the North Sea and had not touched it since. He originally thought the immortal king was just a title, but now it seemed there were many immortal kings. Hu Xiaojian quickly agreed. Being able to work for Gu and made him feel honored. Having spent so many years with Gwyn, he felt fortunate to have someone powerful to rely on. Serving a loose immortal was indeed his blessing. There was an auction on Immortal Seeking Island in a couple of days, and Hu Xiaojian recommended Gwyn attend because there was a sapling of a 9th-rank spirit tree. Upon hearing this, Gwyn immediately agreed. Half a day later, Gwyn left with the sapling of the 9th-rank spirit tree. Some loose immortals attempted to track him, but couldn't keep up. Gwyn arrived at the Outer World Cave and planted the sapling of the 9th-rank spirit tree. Tree of Luo High, 9th rank 56/80,/500000, 500,000 years maximum lifespan. If he were to kill it now, Gwyn could gain 8,000 years of life, but he would not engage in killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. The Tree of Luo High could form the Luotian Energy Sea, gather spiritual energy, and enhance the growth environment of all things. The Luotian Energy Sea could even bring down spiritual rain, which it was said offered a chance for enlightenment from the heavens and earth. This kind of spirit tree made Gwyn very excited. In 10,000 years, the Outer World Cave would be fully cultivated. By then, if his old friends were no longer around, he could retreat there for tens of thousands of years. With Tian Yaoer keeping him company, he would never be lonely. Gwyn admired the Tree of Luo High for a long time before leaving. When he returned again, it was already 10 years later. In 10 years, the Tree of Luo High had grown significantly taller. Tian Yaoer accompanied Gwyn, standing by his side, gazing up at the Tree of Luo High together. In the distance, Tian Qing and Tian Bai were playing around. Gwyn had taken them in to serve Tian Yaoer, but since Tian Yaoer was often in seclusion, she rarely disciplined them, leading to their continued innocence and playful nature. 10 years had passed, and Tian Yaoer's cultivation level had reached the second layer of the nascent soul realm. "Master, we've been looking for so long. Shouldn't we leave now?" Tian Yaoer asked softly. Gwyn came back to his senses, nodded gently, then took her and left. Tian Yaoer urged him because she didn't want to waste time here. She had a lot she wanted to discuss with Gwyn. However, she could sense that Gwyn's mood wasn't high. This feeling persisted until Gwyn left. Returning to Mystic Valley, Gwyn sat at his desk, holding the green hero travelogue, unable to calm his mind. He sighed quietly, feeling very troubled. The reason for his distress was because tonight Yilan was going to release the cultivation suppressed by the primordial reincarnation skill. He was already 122 years old, whereas Yilan was 117, only 13 years away from the end of her lifespan. He feared that the primordial reincarnation skill might have issues, so he left 13 years as a buffer. Over these years, he had sent countless elixirs to Yilan, which should have helped her accumulate a significant amount of cultivation. Gwyn thought this, feeling a bit more at ease. He sent his divine sense toward the outer gate city, inside Yilan's mansion. Yilan was meditating on her bed, practicing her skills. Gwyn could feel that her cultivation realm was loosening. He waited until the deep of night. Yilan's cultivation was completely released. Gwyn had set up many formations in her mansion in advance. Nonetheless, her aura still alerted many people because he couldn't lay formations beyond his apparent abilities grade. More and more people gathered toward Yilan's mansion. Fortunately, the outer sect's great elder LV Songhan arrived in time, dispersing the disciples and dispatching subordinates to guard the mansion. This was Gwyn's prior arrangement. Guin could feel that Yilan was forming a core, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Until dawn, Yilan began forming her nascent soul. This made Guin secretly shocked. The primordial reincarnation skill was quite domineering. Of course, the reason Yilan could break through so quickly was mainly because Guin had invested a lot of elixirs. The value of those elixirs had already surpassed the accumulation of most nascent soul realm cultivators. After 2 more days, Yilan's cultivation finally stabilized. But her commotion had attracted the attention of the inner sect and the main city of the sect. Guin had no choice but to stand guard at the mansion's entrance. LV Batian flew over. Seeing Guin, he immediately approached him. Facing the sect leader, Guin did not conceal anything. He explained the origin of the Taoist expansion skill and revealed that the reason Yilan's breakthrough caused such a stir was that he had poured all the medicinal herbs he had obtained over the years into elixirs for her. LV Batian had heard of the Taoist expansion skill. Wuxin was now a key figure beside Li Xiandao, and the power of the Taoist expansion skill had already spread in the immortal cultivation world. He hadn't expected Guin to be so sentimental. He knew that Guin possessed 3 medicine valleys, and the quantity of medicinal herbs he obtained yearly was immense. That he would pour it all into Yilan was astonishing. He'll handle this. You can wait here in peace, LV Batian said, and then signaled to LV Songhan. He had LV Songhan proclaim that a great cultivator at the divinity transformation realm was practicing in the mansion, and no one was to disturb. A foundation establishment realm cultivator reaching the divinity transformation realm in 2 days would indeed cause a huge stir, but if it was a divinity transformation realm cultivator practicing, the impact would be much less. Guin stood and waited in front of the mansion. Until evening, when Yilan's aura calmed, LV Songhan finally led his people away. Guin entered the mansion and walked toward Yilan's room. Standing in front of the door, he waited. "Senior brother, why don't you come in?" Yilan's voice came from inside the room. Guin took a deep breath and pushed the door open. His gaze was immediately drawn to Yilan on the bed. He quickly performed a lifespan detection. Yilan, Divinity Transformation Stage, 5th level, 117/600/600. Only 600 years of lifespan? Guin frowned, his heart sinking. Yilan opened her eyes, looked at him, and smiled. "Senior brother, I've reached the Divinity Transformation realm. It's incredible." She was very excited, unaware that her lifespan was only 600 years. In her understanding, living 1,000 years at the Divinity Transformation realm was not difficult, and she believed her cultivation would grow higher in the future. The primordial reincarnation skill could extend the maximum lifespan, but couldn't ensure that the practitioner's lifespan increased with breakthroughs. After all, this skill was meant to defy fate. Guin smiled and said, "Really? That's great, junior sister. You'll have to look after me from now on." Yilan laughed. "The technique is yours. When you release your cultivation, you'll definitely be more powerful than I am." Guin hadn't practiced the primordial reincarnation skill, but hearing her say this, he had no choice but to agree. Yilan got up and sat at the table with Guin, starting to talk about her breakthrough experiences. Guin, meanwhile, pondered how to help Yilan achieve enlightenment. At present, it seemed enlightenment was the best way to extend the maximum lifespan. But how difficult enlightenment was. Chapter 228, the 9,999-year life span limit feeling down. Guin looked at the excited Yilan, and his mood gradually improved. No matter what, he at least helped Yilan extend her life by 470 years, and her cultivation progressed from the Foundation Establishment realm to the Divinity Transformation realm, making her future life more exciting. With nearly 500 more years of life, perhaps she would have her own opportunities in the future. Guin smiled and occasionally echoed Yilan's words. When Yilan finished speaking, Guin said, "I recommend you go to the inner sect." Yilan nodded. With a face full of yearning, she said, If I cannot progress further in this life, it would not be in vain to experience the world of great cultivators. Since Guin stepped into the room, Yilan had noticed something was off with his expression. Recalling Guin's usual advice, Yilan thought of many possibilities. One thing was certain: her senior brother was very concerned about her lifespan. Yilan did not feel afraid or disappointed. Instead, she felt very content. Without her senior brother's help, she might have been a servant disciple for her whole life, let alone reaching the foundation establishment realm. Everything now seemed like a dream. If I can only live for a few hundred years, senior brother, you need not regret. If fate allows, we can meet in the next life, right? Yilan blinked and said with a light laugh. Guin was startled, then laughed. Yes, if it's meant to be, even reincarnation can't stop it. They talked from the future to the past this time. Guin chose to stay overnight at Yilan's residence, and they talked all night without feeling tired. Early the next day, Guin left. Yilan saw him off to the gate. Watching his departing figure, the sense of loss welled up in her heart once again. After her cultivation level rose, she increasingly found her senior brother's demeanor extraordinary. Perhaps her senior brother had already reached a certain stage. After all, he was valued by the sword venerable Fudao. Yilan knew one thing for sure. If it was not just a chance meeting with the sword venerable Fudao, the sword venerable would not have taken action with the Qinghong sword. Guin just wanted to avoid trouble. That's why he hid his relationship with the sword venerable Fudao. Yilan can understand this. Senior brother, I will always be with you for the rest of my life. Yilan smiled, her eyes filled with an expectant smile. The future was far away. She did not want to think about it too much. She just wanted to cherish the present. Putting aside Yilan's matter for the time being, unlike the Taoist expansion skill, which could only lift the cultivation constraints once in a lifetime, the primordial reincarnation skill could be repeatedly cultivated. Yilan would continue to suppress her cultivation in the future and release it after hundreds of years. Then the ultimate lifespan should be able to increase again, but Guin was not sure if the effect would be the same as the first time lifting the cultivation constraints. Anyway, this was at least a hope. After hundreds of years, Guin's cultivation would also transform, and perhaps he could find the chance to change Yilan's fate against the heavens. Compared to Yilan, Guin was more worried about Xiaochuan. Xiaochuan, this fellow, usually did not work hard on cultivation, and even if the cultivation constraints were lifted, the improvement would be limited, certainly not as good as Yilan. But Xiaochuan had already seen through life and death, without fear of life and death, so Guin was not so regretful. Everyone has their own choice. Everyone will experience farewells. Guin was not a stubborn person. If he was powerless, he could only work hard on his cultivation and see the end of the immortal path on behalf of his old friends. This year's summer was not as hot as previous years. In the third medicine valley, Guin went downstairs, looking at the myriad forms of life in the valley, and he had a smile on his face, feeling very good. In the distance, Yu Yingying was instructing an Xin and several female disciples in practicing spells. Although her cultivation level was very low, she understood many spells. The blood prison great saint was chasing the white spirit rat again. The gap between them was very small. Whenever he was about to catch the white spirit rat, it always managed to dodge, making him extremely angry and unwilling to stop, so he could only keep chasing. 10 years had passed, and Lu Lingjun had not returned yet. Guin detected through his divine sense that her Ascension sect had been preliminarily established, but one of the Ascenders had offended an overseas family, and they had an ongoing grudge for several years. Guin just watched the play with no intention of meddling. Although Lu Lingjun had been injured many times, it was not to the extent of life-threatening. It had to be said that Ascenders were indeed very tenacious. Even though the enemy was powerful, they had no plans to back down and were prepared to fight to the death, not giving up until justice was served. Xiaochuan came to Guin's side and said, "Senior brother, I just recruited 100 servant disciples. Do you want to take a look?" Over the past 10 years, disciples have constantly established their foundations and left, while new disciples joined, and the total number of disciples had breached 900. Guin, being idle, agreed and nodded. He followed Xiao Chuan to the grassy area at the edge of the pavilion area, where 100 servant disciples were waiting, very nervous and whispering to each other. Will the Valley Master accept us? He should. The head disciple brought us here. This third Medicine Valley is not simple. It sends out several Foundation Establishment Realm disciples each year to help them become Outer Sect disciples. I've heard that too. It's said that the Valley Master is the disciple of the sect leader. The most important thing is that the Valley Master is very generous. Some were excited, some were anxious, and some were so nervous that they were shaking all over. When they saw Xiao Chuan and Guan approaching, they all shut up. Their gazes fell on Guan and were amazed by his appearance and demeanor. So young, so handsome. Guan's eyes swept over these servant disciples, constantly checking their lifespans. In the past decades, there were no few buried talents among the servant disciples recruited by Xiao Chuan, but none had an ultimate lifespan exceeding 1,000 years. Guan had never focused on cultivating servant disciples, so the master-disciple bond was not close. With one glance, all had ultimate lifespans of 100 or 200 years, occasionally showing up one with over 300 years. Yang Jian, Energy Cultivation Realm 3rd Layer 15/97/9999. Yang Jian? Even true Lord Erlang appeared, and with the same ultimate lifespan as in Hao. Guan's gaze fixed on Yang Jian. He pointed at Yang Jian and transmitted his voice to Xiao Chuan, asking him to call that kid out. Yang Jian wore simple gray clothes, his face slightly black, looking like he had been doing farm work since childhood, but his facial contours were very good. If well-groomed, he would appear handsome. He stood in the crowd, very inconspicuous. Watching Xiao Chuan approach, everyone held their breath, both nervous and expectant. Xiao Chuan squeezed into the crowd, patted Yang Jian on the shoulder, and asked him to come out. Yang Jian was stunned, and quickly followed, feeling very anxious, afraid that Guan would find him unpleasant. When he stood in front of Guan, he heard Guan ask, "Introduce yourself." Yang Jian came to his senses and hurriedly said, "My name is Yang Jian, from Longhu Town, Su Province. I am 15 years old, and my family has 9 members." Before Guan could speak, Xiao Chuan couldn't help but ask, "Yang Jian? Which Yang? Which Jian?" Yang Jian scratched his head awkwardly and said, "It's Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods, true Lord Erlang from Journey to the West. I really like these 2 books, so I changed my name to Yang Jian after joining the Supreme Sect. My old name was Yang Xiaohu, which sounded really bad." As soon as he finished speaking, the other servant disciples burst into laughter. Hearing this, Guan breathed a sigh of relief. "Scared me to death. He really thought this kid was Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods." After all, this nearly 10,000-year ultimate lifespan was too eye-catching. To date, Guan had encountered 3 people with an ultimate lifespan of 9,999 years, and Hao, the Blood Prison Great Saint, and Yang Jian. He scrutinized Yang Jian, finding his bones peculiar, and his spirit root was a mixed spirit root of the 5 elements, but his bones were unlike ordinary people. This point was hard to detect without reaching the Immortal Path realm. His bones needed a vast amount of spiritual energy to revive. In other words, if Yang Jian could not awaken his physical body, he was no different from an ordinary servant disciple. Without the lifespan detection, Guan would not have detected this. If not encountered by Guan, Yang Jian would likely never have been noticed for his extraordinary traits, as the number of immortals in the Taizong dynasty was few, making it hard for him to come in contact with them. Xiao Chuan, with a dark expression, said, "You really know how to name yourself," daring to take the name of true Lord Erlang, who is so divine and handsome. He also liked the Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West, and had a very good impression of Yang Jian. In the Investiture of the Gods, Guan included the story of Yang Jian rescuing his mother on Peach Mountain, making Yang Jian's character more complete and raising his popularity to the highest in the Investiture of the Gods, surpassing even Neza. The other servant disciples joined in the teasing, making Yang Jian's face turn red wanting to find a hole to crawl into. Choosing a new name after embarking on the path of immortal cultivation is also a way to show your ambition. From now on, you shall be called Yang Jian. Guan said. With his words, the other disciples dared not laugh anymore. Then, Guan gave some courteous encouragement and explained some rules of the Medicine Valley, stating that as long as the disciples worked diligently, he was willing to help them establish their foundations and pursue the immortal path. After speaking, Guan turned and left. He would not accept someone as a disciple based solely on their ultimate lifespan. He would observe Yang Jian's future behavior. If he had good character, Guan would be willing to help, forming a kind fate. If his character was mean, then he would live his exceptional life span in mediocrity. Due to being singled out by Guan, Yang Jian was pursued by other disciples looking to befriend him, making him feel flattered. He looked at Gu An's departing figure, his eyes full of gratitude. Without Gu An's recognition, his name would have been constantly mocked. He decided secretly that he must perform well and strive to get a foundation establishment pill someday. Back in his room, Guan couldn't help but turn his gaze to Enhao. Compared to Yi Yin, Su Han, and Zhen Qin, Enhao was his true disciple, inheriting his cultivation techniques and ultimate skills. He had always held great expectations for Enhao. Enhao's cultivation had reached the 9th layer of the nascent soul realm, and terrifyingly, he was not yet 100 years old. At the moment, Enhao was cultivating on a small island in the ocean, with Qi Jiuxiao and Qi Bei also on the island, guiding him in his cultivation. Both were stunned by Enhao's talent. If they didn't know that Enhao had a mentor at the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, they would have fought to take him as a disciple. Guan noticed that Qi Bai's cultivation level was continuously dropping. It seemed the poison of the immortal swallowing scorpion could not be completely eliminated. He needed to find an opportunity to pass the Yang with primordial skills advanced technique to how to prevent Enhao from being surpassed by Li Ye and Zhang Buku. Chapter 2, 29 Yang Jian's longing with the passing of summer and the arrival of autumn. The third Medicine Valley gradually became tinged with yellow. Yang Jian came before the blood prison great saint, respectfully presenting a platter filled with flowers and fruits. The blood prison great saint lay on the ground and gave him a casual glance. "Is it washed clean?" he asked indifferently. Yang Jian quickly nodded and whispered, "I washed it 3 times. The blood prison great saint lowered his head to sniff, then said, "Not bad. Keep it up, you may go now." Yang Jian stood up, bowed, and then retreated. Ever since Guan approved his name, he had been more driven than the other disciples. Not only was he busy with chores in the valley, but he also served the blood prison great saint and the white spirit rat diligently. His industriousness made the other servant disciples feel disdainful, so they gradually began to distance themselves from him. Despite this, he did not feel embarrassed, but was instead full of anticipation. He knew full well that with his average talent, if he only did what the other disciples did, he would at most earn a single foundation establishment pill. He believed that even if he reached foundation establishment, it wouldn't change his fate. There were many foundation establishment realm disciples in the outer sect who still remained at the bottom. But if he could gain the favor of the Valley Master, that would be entirely different. Lacking aptitude and connections, Guan represented the greatest opportunity in Yang Jian's eyes. He didn't know how to go about pleasing Guan deliberately, so he used his spare time to take care of Guan's mounts and spirit pets. Yang Jian stood at the wooden fence, looking out over the vast expanse of the Medicine Valley's garden. He wiped the sweat from his face, filled with hopes for the future. Being able to join such a Medicine Valley was already very fortunate. Next, he needed to seize this fortune. Days went by one after another. In late autumn, someone came to visit Guan. It was Wu Ju, whom he hadn't seen in many years. Wu Ju, visiting the third Medicine Valley for the first time, was amazed by its grandeur. "I'm looking for Guan," Wu Ju said, grabbing a person. Coincidentally, that person was Yang Jian. Yang Jian was sweeping the ground and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask for your name, Senior?" What is your relationship with the Valley Master? My name is Wu Ju. Guan and I are brothers. I've been away for many years and came here specifically to see him today, Wu Ju replied. Hearing this, Yang Jian dared not be careless. He asked Wu Ju to wait for a moment and ran all the way to Xiaochuan to report the matter, asking Xiaochuan to make the decision. Xiaochuan then went to Gu An's pavilion and relayed the story at the door. In fact, Guan had already sensed Wu Ju's arrival, but since Wu Ju had now cultivated the energy-concealing sorcery, it was hard for him to detect directly. So he waited for his disciples to report it to him. Bring him over, came Gu An's voice from inside the room. Xiaochuan immediately called out to Yang Jian, sending the waiting Yang Jian downstairs on an errand. Just as Yang Jian turned around, Wu Ju suddenly rushed past like a gust of wind, startling him so much that he widened his eyes. He stood there dumbfounded, watching Wu Ju leave a trail of afterimages as he swiftly went upstairs. Even Xiaochuan, who was upstairs, had his hair blown around and stood frozen in place. Wu Ju pushed open the door, saw Guan, and smiled, turning around to close the door behind him. Xiaochuan came to his senses and turned to descend stairs. Yang Jian was still stunned. It wasn't until Xiaochuan beckoned to him that he finally snapped out of it. He didn't inquire about Wu Ju's identity, but in his heart, a great determination ignited. He also wanted to become a great cultivator like Wu Ju. On the other side, inside the room, Guan poured tea for Wu Ju and listened to him recount his experiences over the years. After sitting down and adjusting his mindset, he used lifespan detection on Wu Ju as if he were about to open a blind box. Wu Ju, Nascent Soul Realm, Level 8 124/890/7600. So many years had passed, but Wu Ju's maximum lifespan had not increased, indicating that he hadn't made any breakthroughs in path enlightenment for decades. Guan felt a bit disappointed. He had hoped that Wu Ju could continue his path enlightenment indefinitely. Of course, with Wu Ju's current talent and status, reaching the Nirvana realm before the age of 7,600 wouldn't be difficult. However, Guan thought it a pity that Wu Ju wouldn't reach the ultimate lifespan limit of 9,999 years. Wu Ju didn't notice any change in Gu An's expression and continued to talk excitedly about his experiences over the years. Guan listened attentively. The timid boy from back then had now grown to be a capable individual. Hearing him now also made Guan feel somewhat emotional. After a long time, Wu Ju began to speak about his troubles. The Emperor treats me very well and has tried hard to win me over, but my master also treats me exceptionally, training me without reservation. Now, the Zhou family behind my master is not only in conflict with the Taizong dynasty, but is also challenging the supreme sect. Wu Ju spoke with a face full of anguish. He had embarked on the immortal cultivation path at the Supreme Sect, so he had deep feelings for it. When the Zhou family left the Supreme Sect, it made things difficult for him. Hence, he chose to serve Li Xiandao to avoid the disputes. But now, with the Zhou family supporting the great Jiang dynasty, a three-way war was imminent, and he faced another decision. This time, he had returned to seek Gu An's opinion. After hearing this, Guan also felt troubled. Repaying a debt of gratitude was always the hardest. He pondered for a moment and then asked, "Who do you think is the most important?" Wu Ju was silent for a moment before he replied, "In my heart, the Supreme Sect is definitely the most important. Whether it is my master or the Emperor, they chose me only after I had grown up. Without the Supreme Sect, I wouldn't have met them." He raised his eyes to look at Guan, his gaze gradually becoming resolute. Guan smiled and said, "Since you can make a choice, I won't say more. Regardless of your decision, I will support you." Wu Ju felt a smile spread across his face and sighed. "I have to consider how to face them in the future. It's simple. Don't become their enemy. Support the Supreme Sect unilaterally. There are many ways to repay them. You don't have to follow orders blindly," Guan reassured him. Wu Ju nodded, then took out various treasures from his storage bag, placing them on the table. "This is the Demon Extermination Elixir," which can prevent the birth of inner demons. This is the sleeve gold sword array. Though small, it can form a large sword array once infused with spiritual power. This is the substitute mouth cricket. It's of no practical use, but can speak for you and serve as entertainment. And this top-grade Dharma artifact, Mist Cloud Boots, allows you to create clouds under your feet and soar through the skies. It was a reward from the Emperor for slaying the enemy's general. Wu Ju introduced the treasures one by one. There were 8 in total, each with different uses. After he finished speaking, Guan pretended to decline, but Wu Ju insisted, saying he had received many elixirs from Guan in the past and had to pay him back. After several refusals, Wu Ju glared and said, "Are we not brothers? You must accept these, or we can't be brothers anymore." Guan had no choice but to agree reluctantly. "Next time you visit, don't bring so many things. I don't need them, and our bond can't be measured by treasures," Guan said seriously. He genuinely didn't want them, and hoped Wu Ju wouldn't go to so much trouble. Wu Ju waved his hand and said, "I don't care. When I see good things, I think of you. Since you don't venture out and only focus on cultivation, they'll find you all the magic artifacts and secret books you need." Guan smiled and didn't continue the topic. It wasn't until dusk that Wu Ju left, having made up his mind to choose the Supreme Sect. He intended to see the sect leader next. Guan stood on the balcony, watching the direction in which Wu Ju departed. The sunset was beautiful, even nearing twilight. Guan saw Yang Jian staring blankly in the direction Wu Ju had gone. During this time, Yang Jian's performance had been commendable, and in Guan's eyes, he was already halfway towards becoming a disciple. In the future, if Yang Jian became famous and even surpassed Wu Ju, would Wu Ju remember that the minor cultivator who led the way for him today was the renowned Yang Jian? Guan found the thought amusing, and a smile appeared on his lips. He noticed that he was developing a mischievous habit of imagining the astonishment of those around him. In the blink of an eye, 5 more years passed. During these 5 years, and Hao broke through to the divinity transformation realm, and Wu Ju reached the 9th level of the nascent soul realm, on the verge of a breakthrough. Since Wu Ju had decided to stay in the Supreme Sect, he hadn't left the Supreme Sect. After expressing his intentions to LV Batian was very pleased and began investing substantial resources in him, creating momentum for him. Now, Wu Ju was one of the top 3 talents in the Supreme Sect, holding the position of a true disciple. 127-year-old Gu and had a lifespan nearing 16,400,000 years, still far from the billion mark, but he hadn't harvested the high-rank medical herbs from the outer world cave yet. He was eagerly looking forward to those high-rank medical herbs. Throughout these years, Guan occasionally went to Immortal Seeking Island to buy high-rank medical herbs. The number of 7th-order medicinal herbs planted in the outer world cave had exceeded 100,000, and the number of 8th-order medicinal herbs surpassed 10,000. Once all these herbs matured, harvesting them would significantly extend his lifespan. On this day, Guan had just returned from Immortal Seeking Island. He walked into the 3rd Medicine Valley with a slight frown. Recently, more and more loose immortals had been eyeing him, so he needed to consider purchasing medicinal herbs from other islands. The price of a single 7th-order medicinal herb was astronomical. Guan's extensive purchases at Immortal Seeking Island had made him one of their top 10 clients, naturally drawing envy. As Guan passed by the Blood Prison Great Saint, he saw Yang Jian standing nearby, washing the Blood Prison Great Saint. He said, "Don't spoil him. He spends his days lazing around, only knowing how to eat and sleep." Yang Jian quickly responded, "It's fine. I don't have anything to do anyway." Guan said no more and quickly went upstairs. The Blood Prison Great Saint, thinking he had upset Guan, quietly said, "Yang Jian, come here." Hearing this, Yang Jian hurried over and squatted in front of him. "Come find me at midnight tonight. It'll teach you a spell," the Blood Prison Great Saint said mysteriously. Yang Jian's expression became strange. "There's no need. I'm not taking care of you for any benefit," he said. What he desired was Guan's favor. What kind of spell could a bull demon teach him? "I don't care. You must come. The blood prison great saint demanded, and Yang Jian had no choice but to agree. He stood up and left, glancing towards the pavilion where Guan resided. If only it were his master teaching him a spell instead. Inside the room, after sitting down, Guan spread his divine sense, looking towards the ocean trench to the east. This great trench had ceased to extend, but still existed across the ocean, frequently drawing great cultivators to observe. Guan sensed the presence of an entity surpassing the wandering immortal realm flying above the ocean trench. The individual displayed their aura recklessly, drawing many divine senses to probe. Chapter 230. Sect Leader's Successor. Guan looked for a while and then withdrew his gaze. Without knowing the other party's intentions, he didn't want to provoke them. The ocean trench had been around for many years without any disaster so far. Guan hoped this tranquility could last long enough to give him time to grow. He picked up the latest volume of the Green Hero Travelogue from the table and started reading. This book was sent by Xian Tianyi, and he had already read it several times. Each reading gave him a different flavor. Xian Tianyi seemed flamboyant and unrestrained, but he was actually meticulous and skilled in writing about women. Night fell. Yang Jian came to the blood prison great saint's side, wanting to say something, but hesitating. The blood prison great saint stood up, and with a twist of his ox-like, but dropped a line before leaving, "Follow me." Yang Jian had no choice but to follow. Well, maybe by appeasing it, it will mess with me less in the future, Yang Jian thought silently, his mood improving. The man and ox arrived in a forest a dozen miles away. The forest was vast, echoing with the sounds of insects. The blood prison great saint turned around to face Yang Jian, then started cultivating energy. In an instant, his red ox hair began to flow like burning blood flames, and a fierce aura erupted from his body. Yang Jian's eyes widened, his whole being becoming alert. This aura, could this lazy ox really know spells? The blood prison great saint let out a deep ox roar, making Yang Jian feel an explosion by his ear, his brain buzzing. It took him a while to recover, looking at the blood prison great saint in horror. The great saint still maintained his aura, looking especially menacing in the night. Yang Jian's gaze towards the blood prison great saint became fervent. The blood prison great saint raised his ox head and said, "This is a spell of the blood prison divine skill called the blood prison roar. If you train to a minor achievement realm, it can cause the enemy's divine soul to become unsettled in battle. If perfected, it could kill enemies with a roar. So powerful? I want to learn. I want to learn." Yang Jian felt ignited, the image of the blood prison great saint completely transforming in his eyes. The blood prison great saint, full of pride, said, "Cultivating the blood prison roar isn't easy. Are you ready for hardship?" "I'm not afraid of hardship," Yang Jian said firmly. The blood prison great saint grinned. Under Gu An's divine sense, he found an ox smiling to be quite eerie. This guy didn't have any ill intentions, right? Autumn and winter passed, and the new spring arrived. The third Medicine Valley began preparing for the spring festival once again. On this day, Wu Ju arrived, but Guan wasn't there, so he wandered around the valley. He saw the minor cultivator who had previously guided him carrying water, so he walked over and asked with a smile, "Little brother, aren't you a cultivator? Why are you carrying water yourself?" Yang Jian's eyes lit up when he saw Wu Ju. He hadn't forgotten Wu Ju's movement technique from that day, ethereal like an immortal. He replied, "This is our form of cultivation method." His voice was hoarse, speaking haltingly, making Wu Ju uncomfortable to listen to. "What happened to your voice?" Wu Ju asked with a frown. Yang Jian answered, "From practicing." Wu Ju shook his head with a smile, patted Yang Jian on the shoulder, and turned to leave. The reason Wu Ju remembered Yang Jian was that before leaving last time, Guan had asked him about his thoughts on Yang Jian. Being remembered by Gu In, he naturally developed a bit of interest in Yang Jian. But now it seemed this boy's talent was quite mediocre, with almost no advancement in cultivation over the years. Yang Jian didn't know what Wu Ju was thinking. Just being asked by him already made him very happy. Wu Ju continued wandering in the valley. An hour later, he sensed Gu An's aura. But when he turned his head, he frowned. There were actually two women beside Guan. Why isn't it Ms. Shun? Wu Ju wondered. He always thought Guan and Shun Jun liked each other. But now seeing Guan chatting and laughing with two women beside him, he felt upset. Brother Gu was letting down Ms. Shun. Guan, with Yilan and Jun Qin, flew in. The two women were curious about the scene in the Third Medicine Valley, constantly asking questions, and he answered with a smile. After landing, Wu Ju approached, pointing at Jun Qin, and asked, Guan, who is this? His tone was sharp, making Jun Qin look at him in confusion. He knew Yilan, Gu An's junior sister, but seeing Jun Qin clinging to Gu An's arm made him feel uneasy. Jun Qin's eyes lit up and said, Are you Wu Ju? Yilan nodded and said, Yes, he is the true disciple who has recently become famous in the Supreme Sect, Wu Ju. Seeing Wu Ju, she felt very emotional. At the Golden List Conference, she met Wu Ju through Guan. Back then, Wu Ju surprised her, but she didn't expect him to achieve so much today. Why did geniuses always appear around senior brother? Guan smiled and said, This is my disciple, Jun Qin. Let's go inside and talk. Hearing this, Wu Ju's expression softened. When is Ms. Shun coming? Wu Ju asked. He always believed that Guan and Shun Jun were meant to be together. Guan casually replied, How would I know when she will come? Hearing this, Jun Qin's eyes darted between Guan and Wu Ju, thinking about something. The four of them headed towards the pavilion, Jun Qin continuously asking Wu Ju questions enthusiastically, making Wu Ju a bit shy. Before they reached the pavilion, a figure flew in quickly. Guan silently thought, Oh no, Ms. Shun. Wu Ju called out excitedly and waved at Shun Jun. Yilan and Jun Qin looked towards Shun Jun. She wore a white dress with a veil on her face, looking like a celestial being with an outstanding temperament. Shun Jun landed beside Jun Qin and smiled. Wu Ju, long time no see. She was often in seclusion and didn't know about Wu Ju's reputation over the years. She looked at Yilan and Jun Qin, full of curiosity. Guan pretended to be calm and began introducing them to each other. The three women exchanged pleasantries, creating a harmonious atmosphere, but Guan could feel the undercurrent. I didn't expect it. Guan, you have so many female confidants? Yu Yingying suddenly approached, asking excitedly. Wu Ju's loud voice had drawn her attention. Seeing the three women surrounding Gu and chatting, while Wu Ju maintained a polite distance, she felt there was a good show to watch. Guan turned black-faced and said, Don't talk nonsense. Yilan looked at Yu Yingying and asked, Who is this? So senior brother's previous jokes were true. Many female disciples in the valley liked him. Yu Yingying, working for Guan, Yu Yingying said with a smile. No one believed her, as how could an errand girl call the valley master by name? Yu Yingying continued, I forgot to tell you, Senior Lu should be coming back for the festival. Guan kept a straight face and said, Let her come back if she wants to. Yilan squinted her eyes and asked, Is Senior Lu a man or woman? Yu Yingying said, A woman, Lu Lingjun. You should have heard of her. She's a great cultivator in the mystic heart realm. Yilan and Jun Qin's faces changed. They had indeed heard of Lu Lingjun, but didn't expect her to be connected with Gu, and Shun Jun's eyes curved in a smile, looking appreciatively at Yu Yingying. What a talent. I like her. Guan took Yilan's hand and walked towards the pavilion, saying, My junior sister is here for the first time. I need to attend to her. Yilan's face blushed. Jun Qin hurriedly followed, feeling victorious. She proudly gave Yu Yingying a challenging look. Yu Yingying glared at Jun Qin before turning to leave. Shun Jun tacitly followed suit without a word. Wu Ju stood in place, watching the backs of the three women. After thinking it over, he decided not to follow them. If they really start fighting, he would step in to protect Guan. No wonder Brother Gu doesn't cultivate, too busy tending to his peach blossoms. Indeed, Master is right. Women are obstacles on the immortal cultivation path, They are inner demons. Wu Ju shook his head and continued strolling through the valley. Upstairs in a room, Guan poured tea for the three women. Yilan started chatting with Shunjun. Having worked in the law enforcement hall for many years, she was adept at handling people and situations, making the conversation lively and pleasant among the three women, appearing like close friends. After Guan sat down, Shunjun asked, "After Journey to the West, will you write another book? I want to read about Sun Wukong becoming the victorious fighting Buddha." Yilan and Zhenqin already knew Gu and was panning, but still looked at him curiously, eager for his answer. Zhenqin looked at Guan, marveling inwardly. Her master's cultivation talent might be mediocre, but his writing was extraordinary. By now, more and more people knew Gu and was the author, so he didn't mind Shunjun revealing his identity intentionally. After all, his apparent cultivation level was no longer weak, and he could defend himself. No more writing, busy researching other minor arts. Guan answered casually. Shunjun felt a bit disappointed and began praising Journey to the West, saying it was better than the Investiture of the Gods and more meaningful. She felt Journey to the West was critiquing something. Yilan also joined in the discussion about Journey to the West, while Zhenqin gazed at Guan with admiration, realizing its impact had even surpassed the Investiture of the Gods. An hour later, another guest arrived at the valley, freeing Guan somewhat. LV Baitian. LV Baitian entered the room, and Yilan and Zhenqin quickly stood up to greet him. They were already true disciples and had naturally met LV Baitian before. Shunjun also greeted LV Baitian courteously. You all go out and have a look around. I have something to discuss with Guan, LV Baitian said indifferently, but he laughed inwardly. This kid was impressive, having so many peach blossoms, not inferior to my younger days. Zhenqin couldn't help but curiously ask, "Sect leader, are you very familiar with my master?" LV Baitian looked at her, knowing she was Guan's disciple, then laughed. "Of course. He is my appointed successor to the sect leader. During the Golden List Conference, the world's #1 Sword Dao tournament, the Alchemy Conference, and so on, it was all his idea. From now on, you can call me Martial Master." Upon hearing this, the three women widened their eyes. Guan silently thought, this is bad. Shunjun also felt surprised. She knew Guan was close with LV Baitian, thinking it was because of Pan An's identity. She didn't expect LV Baitian to hold Guan in such high regard. Seeing Gu An's expression, LV Baitian was amused and said, "Never mind, you all stay and listen." The three women quickly thanked him. Their gazes towards Gu and made him uneasy. Chapter 231. The world-destroying catastrophe is coming. LV Baitian sat down, then began to ask Guan about what kind of event to hold next to make it more attractive. Yilan, Zhenqin, and Shunjun stood by, listening. They were also curious about how Guan strategized for LV Baitian. Guan pondered and said, "The Supreme Sect has already held numerous events. Although the types are changing for the vast majority of disciples, there isn't much participation. Other sects have started to imitate us, making it hard to increase our influence no matter what kind of event we hold." LV Baitian nodded, troubled by this situation himself. Other sects were not fools. Seeing the Supreme Sect to profit, they also began to hold similar events. Especially with Songtian's sect joining, cultivators across the land flocked to them, significantly reducing the Supreme Sect's appeal. To this day, Songtian's sect remained the top sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Shenzhen also fell into deep thought. Although the Great Yu dynasty was no more, the Daotian sect remained. Now, having established close ties with the Supreme Sect, the better the Supreme Sect's development, the more it benefited Daotian's sect. Guan continued, "Actually, we're in the best position. We have 2 Mahayana realm cultivators and the mysterious Sword Venerable Fudao. On this point, Songtian's sect cannot compete. If you want to surpass Songtian's sect, why not hold a Tianbang tournament? No age limit, no cultivation realm limit, combat to determine the top 100 ranks. As long as we announce it, the world's cultivators will be shaken. Sects that don't dare participate will only be ridiculed. If Sangtian's sect doesn't dare to participate, they will be deemed weaker than our supreme sect in the eyes of the world's cultivators. If they participate, then let it be a normal competition to see if their Taoist lord can defeat Senior Xian and Senior Qiao. LV Baishan's eyes lit up upon hearing this, but he still hesitated, saying, Mayana realm combat. If it gets intense, how do we control it? Guan thought for a moment and said, how about holding it in the outer sect? We can use Sword Venerable to deter them. LV Baitian frowned, still hesitant. The Supreme Sect's high-level members also had reservations about Sword Venerable. They didn't know what Sword Venerable's intentions were or his origins. Previously, they fantasized that Sword Venerable was an ascetic trained by the Supreme Sect, hiding his cultivation level, unknown to anyone. But as immortals continued to appear in their vision, they realized that the Supreme Sect's soil couldn't nurture such an existence. Sword Venerable was simply too powerful, forcing them to recognize reality. If the sect leader fears angering Sword Venerable, we can allocate part of the Tianbang tournament's proceeds to the Heavenly Repair Platform as a tribute to Sword Venerable, showing our sincerity, Guan suggested. LV Baitian hesitated and asked, is that all right? Guan continued, you can inquire in front of the Heaven Cutting Axe. Sword Venerable is an immortal. He will surely hear you. As long as you explain the stakes clearly, he should tacitly allow it. After the Tianbang tournament is held, as long as the Supreme Sect cultivators retain the top position, other sects won't be able to host their own Tianbang tournaments, since only the top sect in the world has the qualification to host it. If Sangtian's sect cannot secure the top position, their morale will also suffer. Like the previous Golden List tournament, the Tianbang must be recorded. It's best to distribute it to the world's cultivators without charging Spirit Stone fees to spread its influence first. The second Tianbang tournament can then collect Spirit Stone fees for profit. As long as the Supreme Sect made this announcement, the matter would be settled. Throughout history, no sect dared to do it despite thinking of it. Gathering the world's top cultivators within their sect to compete for supremacy could easily spiral out of control, possibly leading to total destruction. The Supreme Sect was different, as they had the balance-breaking existence of Sword Venerable Fudao. Shenzhen couldn't help but say, this plan is indeed devious. No sect in the world can refuse. Even if they know they can't secure the top position, they have to participate. The more LV Baitian thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. As long as the Supreme Sect secure the top spot, they could still attract great cultivators in the future. What if cultivators from the Holy Land or overseas participate? What do we do then? LV Baitian hesitantly asked. Guan smiled and said, wouldn't that further prove the Supreme Sect's influence? Even cultivators from the Holy Land couldn't resist participating. As long as our people's ranks are the highest within the three-dynasty immortal cultivation world, that'll be sufficient. LV Baitian found it reasonable and began to discuss the specific details with Guan. Mere slogans wouldn't suffice. There had to be tangible benefits to attract more cultivators to participate. Yilan watched Guan and LV Baitian discuss matters involving the world's great trends. She felt sentimental. As expected, her senior brother was destined not to be an ordinary person. Zhenxin, on the other hand, didn't think much. She was already fantasizing about the Tianbang tournament. Who wouldn't want to be the world's number one? Though she had no qualification to compete, she still wanted to know who was the number one in the immortal cultivation world. An ancient hour later, LV Baitian hurriedly left, not even celebrating the new year. Guan took the three women downstairs to enjoy the New Year's atmosphere with the disciples. The disciples in the Medicine Valley even set up a market, making it very lively. As dusk approached, Lu Lingjun returned. The gap in cultivation between her and Yi Lan and the other two women was vast, so there was no conflict. Distracted, she paid no attention to their relationship with Guangu and first went back to Mystic Valley, drank with the disciples, and returned to the third Medicine Valley to continue celebrating with the others. The next morning, guests left, and the disciples resumed their busy routines. Lu Lingjun also left Medicine Valley, flying towards the main city of the sect. One night, several days later, Guan saw LV Baitian leading several dozen members of the Hall of Elders to the heaven-cutting axe. They set up a formation to prevent other disciples and cultivators on the platform from hearing them. After explaining the Tianbang tournament, the heaven-cutting axe remained silent, and they took this as Sword Venerable Fudeo's tacit approval. Guan had already begun to look forward to the benefits the Tianbang tournament could bring. He could buy many high-rank medicinal herbs. The second morning, Guzong brought a large group of cultivators to find Lu Lingjun. These cultivators had a minimum cultivation level of Void Crossing Realm, numbering over 100. Lu Lingjun immediately took this group of disciples southward. Guzong exchanged pleasantries with Gu and before leaving. Guan didn't ask what Lu Lingjun was up to. There's no need to guess. It's obvious it was about overseas ascenders. 1 month later, the Supreme Sect announced the Tianbang tournament, and notices about the tournament quickly covered every city in the Immortal cultivation world. At the same time, LV Baitian sent out invitations to various sects, acting first and reporting later. The world was shaken. The higher-ups of the various sects cursed the Supreme Sect's shamelessness, but the lower and middle-level cultivators were exhilarated. Many were curious, aside from Sword Venerable Fudao, who was truly the world's #1. Sword Venerable, being too powerful, was considered an outsider by the cultivators of the 3 dynasties. The local world's #1 had never been definitively determined. When Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint into the outer city, the disciples passing by discussed this matter excitedly. Yang Jian, who was following beside the Blood Prison Great Saint, also felt his blood boiling. He wondered if he would ever have a chance to be on the Tianbang in this lifetime. Throughout the journey, Yang Jian saw Guan greeting people frequently. He knew many, including cultivators with their subordinates, which made Yang Jian admire Guan even more. This morning, Guan had Xiaochuan send word to Yang Jian, saying he would take him to the outer gate city, thrilling him. It meant Guan was truly accepting him. Not just him. Other servant disciples also thought so, which led to many imitating him, gathering around the white spirit rat, leaving an Xian helpless. Yang Jian, are you willing to truly become my disciple? Guan suddenly asked, making the daydreaming Yang Jian freeze. He asked reflexively what? Guan glanced at him, giving him a fright that drenched him in cold sweat. Fool, the master is asking if you are willing to truly become his disciple. The Blood Prison Great Saint said mockingly. It was his way of caring for Yang Jian. Yang Jian had served him for 5 years, so he naturally had a liking for him and wanted to help him. Others might not know Gu An's true cultivation level, but the Blood Prison Great Saint knew very well. The strongest person in the Supreme Sect was Guan. He even suspected that the mysterious Sword Venerable Fudao was Guan. I am willing. I am willing. Master, please accept my bow. Yang Jian was overjoyed and knelt in the street. The passing disciples all looked at him with strange expressions. Guan didn't feel embarrassed, accepting his bow. After he kowtowed 3 times, he let him up. The Blood Prison Great Saint continued forward, and Yang Jian followed closely, trembling with excitement. He had been in the 3rd Medicine Valley for 5 years. In his mind, Guan was highly esteemed. Although Guan seemed to only be at the core formation realm, there were actually Mystic Heart Realm great cultivators hidden in the valley, leading him to imagine many things. The Blood Prison Great Saint glanced at the trembling Yang Jian, feeling a bit sour. Why? This kid seemed unremarkable and extremely ordinary. This kind of person could be Gu An's disciple, while he, an invincible ascender in the mortal world, could only be a mount. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt conflicting emotions. If he hadn't been so reckless when he first ascended, hadn't hunted down Liya and Zhang Buku, he wouldn't have ended up like this. But then he thought, if not for those incidents, even after 1,000 years of cultivation, he might not have encountered a great cultivator like Guan. Even if he did, he would probably be killed. He considered it a blessing in disguise. He can have many disciples, but if I am his only mount, it would be different, the blood prison great saint thought, getting excited again. As the saying goes, beating a dog depends on the owner's face. Spit. Disciples eventually graduate, but a mount is a lifelong bond. Even if Guin freed him 1,000 years later, he would pledge loyalty, saying he would always be Gu An's mount. He wanted Gu and to be his backing in the great heavenly spirit land. The more the blood prison great saint thought about it, the more excited he became. His ox body began to tremble. Guin looked down at him and then at Yang Jian. He suddenly worried that Yang Jian might be led astray by the blood prison great saint, as his mind didn't seem stable. Just then, a shabbily dressed old man stopped the blood prison great saint. He looked at Guin, his eyes wide, rambling. The mortal disaster is coming. The ocean will engulf everything. The apocalypse is nearing. The blood prison great saint stopped, eyeing him suspiciously. Yang Jian also glanced at him, drawn by his words. The old man finished speaking, turned, and stopped other passing cultivators, saying the same things. Chapter 232. First Heaven's Pride. Watching the old man crazily preach about the apocalypse, the cultivators passing by on the street couldn't help but discuss, most of them not taking it seriously, just curious about where this old man came from to dare be so presumptuous at the supreme sect. Guin remained half skeptical. The ocean would swallow everything? He had heard such legends before. On the ocean, these kinds of legends were not uncommon. Moreover, in recent years, a large rift had mysteriously appeared on the ocean, making it hard for him not to believe. I'm only 127 years old. Why so much hardship? Guin thought helplessly, but the previous demon calamity was not a disaster for the mortal world, just a scheme by the immortal cultivation forces, and such things were by no means rare in this world. This time, he hoped the ocean calamity wasn't targeting him or the Three Dynasties lands. If that's the case, he would have to think more, wondering if the heavenly Tao was scheming against him. Indeed, he shouldn't get too involved in the mortal world. Could his way of crazily growing stronger without crossing tribulations be seen as an anomaly by the heavenly Tao? To eliminate an anomaly without knowing where it is, it simply launches an apocalypse. For all beings, a calamity is a catastrophe, but for heaven and earth itself, it's just a major cleansing. Lost in thought, Guin soon saw that old man being seized by a disciple of the law enforcement hall, still shouting as he was taken away. The ocean will swallow everything. This small episode didn't stay in many people's minds. Compared to such crazy talk, the disciples were more concerned about the heavenly rankings tournament. The title of #1 in the world stirred the hearts of countless cultivators. Guin wasn't too worried either. This old man didn't have an extraordinary limit to his lifespan, nor did he hide his realm. He was merely a foundation establishment realm cultivation level. He brought Yang Jian to the Elixir Hall, instructing him to observe carefully and listen, as he might help him with tasks in the future. This made Yang Jian both excited and nervous, worried about making mistakes and disappointing Guin. It wasn't until evening that they finally returned to the Medicine Valley. Spring passed, and summer came, and Guin crossed the threshold of 128 years old. The Heavenly Rankings tournament had already spread throughout the world, but the exact start time was not yet determined. With the operation of the Supreme Sect, over 90% of the cultivators in the lands of the Three Dynasties knew about it. Who is #1 in the world became a hot topic for cultivators during their leisure time. On this day, Guin came to the Immortal Seeking Island. As soon as he arrived, he heard someone discussing the millennial Great Sea Tide. Legend has it that once every millennia, the ocean will rise and flood land masses, lasting for hundreds of years before it subsides. Not every great sea tide is the same. In severe cases, it could flood the entire mortal world, a phenomenon that happens once in a million years. Today's cultivators couldn't calculate how far it had been since the last apocalypse-level sea tide, but precisely because they couldn't calculate it, they were in a state of panic. Everywhere on the ocean, people were proclaiming that the apocalypse-level sea tide was imminent. These people came from different sects, claiming to have sensed the world's omens and saw the apocalyptic visions in their dreams while cultivating. Weaker cultivators might even undergo deviation and become insane. Some even linked it to the oceanic rift that appeared before, suggesting it might be a sign of the apocalypse-level sea tide. When Guan found Hu Shaojian also brought up the matter, his face full of worry. The world is truly in chaos now. First, there was the conflict between the seven-star spirit realm and the star sea congregations, battles occurring everywhere. Now, there's an imminent apocalypse-level sea tide. We truly live in the worst of times, Hu Shaojian sighed. Guan comforted, nothing is certain yet, don't overthink. Though the news was spreading widely, the sea level hadn't risen, at least not affecting the mainland of the Three Dynasties lands. According to legend, before an apocalypse-level sea tide erupts, there would be a build-up period of hundreds of years that all living beings in the mortal world can sense. It's said that during this period, the spiritual energy of the sea would burst forth, enriching the entire world's spiritual energy, accelerating the cultivation speed of all beings, as if a small mercy from heaven and earth. If one could leave this world during this period, they could escape the calamity. But that's only applicable to high-level cultivators. To achieve heaven and earth flying immortal within those few hundred years, one would at least need to be at the wandering immortal realm. Guan and Hu Shaojian wandered the streets, chatting as they walked. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them, a woman in yellow attire, her demeanor dignified with an extraordinary aura, and her appearance also top-notch. Her cultivation level reached the mystic heart realm. May I ask if you're Senior Meng Lang? My lord wishes to invite you as a guest. My lord is Sage Tang Hai, the woman in yellow said respectfully. Using a mystic heart realm female cultivator as a maid? Such a grand gesture. As Guan was thinking, Hu Shaojian quietly introduced, Sage Tang Hai is an honorary elder of the Sea Protection Mansion on Immortal Seeking Island, known for his righteous actions and good reputation. The implication was that he could be trusted. Guan glanced at Hu Shaojian before looking at the woman in yellow and said, "Lead the way." He cast a lifespan detection on the woman in yellow. With a lifespan limit just over 2,000, she would be considered a girl of heavenly pride on the mainland, only to be a maid on Immortal Seeking Island. The woman in yellow gracefully bowed and then turned to lead the way. Half an hour later, they entered a mansion. Hu Shaojian chose not to go inside, waiting at the gate instead. Tanghai Mansion was large, with many servants whose lowest cultivation level was at the nascent soul realm. Led by the woman in yellow, Guan arrived at a courtyard where he saw a man in blue attire sitting at a table, sipping tea, with a scholarly and elegant air. Sage Tang Hai, loose Immortal Realm 5th Layer 8908/27000/27500. The woman in yellow stopped her steps, bowed to Sage Tang Hai, and then left. Sage Tang Hai looked at Guan and stood up to clasp his fists in salute. Daoist friend, I apologize if my invitation disturbs you. Guan approached the table, raising his hand in return salute. No worries. I have nothing much to do anyway. Then, both of them sat down and began to chat. After some casual conversation, Sage Tang Hai finally said, Daoist friend, the number of heavenly materials and earthly treasures you've purchased over the years is staggering, and many people are inquiring about you. But rest assured, no one dares to cause trouble on Immortal Seeking Island. I've also helped you block some of them. Guan didn't understand his meaning and could only follow along, thanking him. The strongest on Immortal Seeking Island had only the cultivation level of Wandering Immortal Realm. Guan didn't really regard anyone there seriously. Recently, the news of the apocalypse-level sea tide has been rampant. Whether it's true or not, the world is in turmoil. If we cultivators can band together for warmth, that would be the best. 10 years from now, I plan to hold a private auction here, even offering an Immortal Path spirit tree. If Daoist friend is interested, you can attend it. The actual trading price will count 70% of the final transaction price. Consider it my gift to Daoist friend as a meeting token, Sage Tang Hai said, stroking his beard with a smile that gave a comforting feeling like a spring breeze. Gua heard this and smiled, thanking him again. An Immortal Path spirit tree? He was indeed very interested. The highest grade spirit tree he had was only of the 9th rank. He couldn't imagine what wonders an Immortal Path spirit tree would hold. Seeing Guan agree, Sage Tang Hai became more enthusiastic. The two chatted for a long time, with Sage Tang Hai revealing his desire to form a small circle of loose immortals, to explore and venture into the ancient Immortal Path secret realm together. After a full hour, Guan finally left Tang Hai Mansion, who Xiaojian followed without saying a word. The first wisp of autumn breeze blew into the 3rd Medicine Valley. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, staring blankly at the pavilion where Guan lived. It had been a while since he apprenticed under Guan, yet nothing in his life had changed. Guan hadn't taught him any cultivation techniques or spells, causing him some agony. He was already 21 years old, and his cultivation remained at the 3rd layer of the energy cultivation realm, making him very anxious. He heard that the number 1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao, had already reached the Foundation establishment realm at his age. Time passed as he daydreamed. As dusk fell, Yang Jian washed a batch of fruits and carried them on a large wooden tray to the Blood Prison Great Saint's side. Just as he was about to leave, a voice came from the pavilion. "Jinner, wait for me downstairs after nightfall." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian became excited, quickly bowing to the pavilion. He didn't shout loudly, fearing other disciples might hear. An hour later, wearing clean clothes, Yang Jian stood in front of the stairs, his eyes occasionally glancing towards the window upstairs. Blood Prison Great Saint found it amusing, teasing him now and then, making him blush, not knowing how to respond. Suddenly, the door upstairs opened, and Yang Jian immediately stood straight. Gu then descended the stairs and headed towards the transmission array platform. Yang Jian quickly followed, and Blood Prison Great Saint also trailed behind. The two of them, along with the ox, used the teleportation array to reach the Mystic Valley and then headed towards the deserted mountains and forests. Seeing Guan riding on the ox's back, Yang Jian felt very nervous. He wanted to ask his master when he would teach him cultivation techniques, but was afraid of being rude. They walked through the night. By dawn, Yang Jian was in a daze. Guan made Blood Prison Great Saint stop. Beside them was a large river, the water so clear that they could see small fish and crabs. Guan looked at the rising sun and asked, "Jinner, do you wish for superior cultivation techniques?" Yang Jian awkwardly scratched his head and said, "If such exists, I naturally want it." Guan didn't dislike his utilitarian nature. He looked at Yang Jian and asked, "What are you willing to sacrifice for immortal cultivation?" He planned to nurture Yang Jian well and keep him close, a treatment even Hao didn't receive. Yang Jian was stunned for a moment and said, "I have nothing, but I desire only immortal cultivation, even if it costs my life." Guan said calmly, "Your root and bones are special, making energy absorption difficult. You should feel it too." Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face instantly darkened. His aptitude was not merely humble. Even in the 3rd Medicine Valley, it was considered low tier. After many years in the valley, he hadn't even broken through a single minor stage, which made him yearn even more for higher-level cultivation techniques. "I can transform you into a genius, but you must endure unimaginable pain, perhaps even facing physical destruction. Are you willing?" Guan fixed his gaze on Yang Jian, his tone indifferent. Facing his master's gaze, Yang Jian felt inexplicably flustered. "Master, are you scaring your disciple?" Yang Jian asked cautiously. Physical destruction sounded terrifying. Guan said, "Changing one's fate against the heavens isn't easy. If you fear, I won't force you. I will still teach you appropriate cultivation techniques and spells, but your path will progress slowly. Yang Jian asked, Master, has any other senior brother or sister succeeded? Guan shook his head and said, I've truly taken only 2 disciples. The others are just given elixirs, and your senior brother is already a world-renowned genius. World-renowned? Yang Jian opened his mouth, filled with confusion. Isn't the master at the core formation realm? How does he have such a powerful disciple? World-renowned? Could he compare to the legendary first genius of the Supreme Sect, and how? Chapter 233. What realm is above the heaven and earth? Flying Immortal Guan saw through Yang Jian's thoughts, but didn't explain and instead waited for his choice. Yang Jian's bones were special and required vast amounts of spiritual energy for body tempering. This process was bound to be painful, so Guan let him choose. No matter how strong the aptitude, without a firm will, the road ahead would be difficult. The blood prison great saint looked at Yang Jian mockingly, wanting to see how the boy would choose. Yang Jian clenched his teeth and said, Yang Jian from Investiture of the Gods was able to split a mountain to save his mother and fight against the heavens. Since I've renamed myself Yang Jian, I can't disgrace his name. Even if it means my body is shattered to pieces, I will have no regrets. Master, please help me defy destiny. With that, he knelt down suddenly. Guan's lips curved upwards, and Yang Jian felt a terrifying force envelop him, sending chills down his spine. Before he could think further, he felt the world suddenly shift, causing his internal organs to quiver. The next second, the world returned to normal, and he felt his feet touch the ground. The intense sense of weightlessness made him almost want to vomit. He supported himself on the ground and instinctively looked up to see his master still sitting on the Bull Demon King's back. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. He opened his mouth and asked, Master, just now, before he could finish a sentence, a sea breeze blew, instantly clearing his mind. He stood up and turned around, dumbfounded by what he saw. What did he see? The sea. How is that possible? Yang Jian looked towards the vast ocean in front of him, utterly stunned. Though he had never seen the ocean, he had heard old stories saying it was larger than a lake, boundless like another world. The blood prison great saint had felt the limitless freedom step before, but each time it left him astonished. This divine skill was truly unbelievable. Without any warning, it was so fast that even he, a Mahayana realm cultivator, couldn't react. Guan dismounted from the bull and walked towards the island's interior, saying, Follow me. Yang Jian snapped out of his stupor and quickly followed Guan. The blood prison great saint also followed, curious about how Guan planned to help Yang Jian defy destiny. Could such a mediocre talent truly transform into a favored son of heaven? He was filled with doubt. Yang Jian's feelings were complex, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Just from that earlier display, he could tell that his master was definitely not a core formation realm cultivator. In other words, his master's words were true. He could defy destiny, but he would have to face bone-crushing pain. The mere thought of it made his legs tremble. Guan noticed Yang Jian's state, but didn't offer any comfort because Yang Jian would have to face it eventually. After walking into the forest, Yang Jian's attention was diverted. He found the spiritual energy here incredibly abundant, and the creatures on the island seemed unusual. He saw a blue-furred rabbit as fast as lightning. There were also snakes resembling white jade, spiders like gemstones, and long creatures hovering in midair like sea dragons. All these new sights stimulated his senses. After walking for an hour, Guan finally stopped at a lakeside deep within the forest. He stood by the lake, took out a great cauldron, and started a fire. Yang Jian watched as Guan pointed with his right hand, shooting out a blue flame, feeling an even deeper sense of awe. Master, what realm are you in? Yang Jian braved himself to ask. Guan casually replied, Loose Immortal realm. What is a loose immortal? Chi cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing, unification, mystic heart, Mahayana. These are the 9 ranks of the mortal realm. Beyond that is the immortal path realm. Nirvana is the first step on the immortal path, and loose immortal is the second step. Guan explained, and Yang Jian gasped in shock. The Blood Prison Great Saint also learned about the immortal path realm for the first time. Was his master really only 2 major realms above him? The Blood Prison Great Saint suspected Gu and was hiding something. Fortunately, Yang Jian, the innocent one, asked the question he wanted to ask. What realm is above loose immortal? That is something you will have to seek out yourself in the future. Guan answered. While he intended to reveal part of his strength, he couldn't fully expose himself. There always had to be some reserve. He had recently been contemplating breaking through to a higher realm. In case a world-destroying sea tide erupted, he feared the heaven and earth flying immortal technique wouldn't suffice. He wasn't too worried, though. If the mortal world were ever submerged, he could escape to outer heaven or open a grotto heaven under the sea, bringing those close to him into a minor heaven and earth of his own creation. Yang Jian continued to inquire about the differences between the various realms, and Guan patiently answered, gradually emboldening Yang Jian. He suddenly felt that his master wasn't as terrifying as he had initially thought and was actually quite gentle. In reality, Guan treated all his disciples gently, including him, but his desire to depend on Guan brought inevitable pressure. After Guan had finished preparing the medicinal herbs, he instructed Yang Jian to enter the medicine cauldron. Yang Jian asked if he needed to undress, and Guan replied that it wasn't necessary. Ordinary robes couldn't block spiritual energy. Yang Jian sat inside the medicine cauldron, extremely nervous, clutching the corners of his robe tightly, with cold sweat the size of beans dripping from his forehead. The Blood Prison Great Saint stood up, placing his hose on the edge of the medicine cauldron, and said, Boy, the path of immortal cultivation is arduous. Many times you just need to think about holding a little longer, just a little longer, and the pain you're enduring will soon pass. Yang Jian took a deep breath, looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint, and asked, Senior Nyo, may I ask what realm you are in? Since his master was a loose immortal, the Bull Demon King, as his master's mount, must be incredibly strong. Otherwise, why would his master only bring him along? The Blood Prison Great Saint looked at Guan, saw him nod, then turned back, smiling proudly, and said, I am at the Mahayana realm's 8th floor, and not just a bull demon. I am the Blood Prison Great Saint who ascended from the lower realm. He recounted his glorious history endlessly, leaving Yang Jian with his mouth agape. The Mahayana realm's 8th floor. He knew that the Supreme Sect had only 2 Mahayana realm cultivators in name. Who would have thought that the bull raised by his master was at the Mahayana realm? Yang Jian was dazzled by the immense joy, feeling as if he were dreaming. Guan instructed the Blood Prison Great Saint to step aside, and the Blood Prison Great Saint had no choice but to shut up and move away, showing none of the bearing of a Mahayana realm cultivator. Guan took out an elixir and handed it to Yang Jian, saying, After consuming this, follow the mental method I described and cultivate your energy. I will guide you in your training. No matter how much it hurts, you must follow my guidance to absorb energy. Otherwise, you will perish, and not even an immortal Daluo can save you. Yang Jian was about to ask what an immortal Daluo was when he saw Guan turn away. He could only toss the elixir into his mouth. The moment it entered, it dissolved, and Yang Jian felt his throat burning, his body suddenly heating up. At this moment, Gu An's voice reached his ears using the sound transmission skill, along with a domineering force entering his body, guiding him to absorb nature's spiritual energy. Guan was teaching the All Things Form and Energy art. The All Things Form and Energy art originated and continually elevated from the energy nurturing skill. It was fundamentally a body-tempering technique. Although Guan rarely engaged in close combat, his physique was robust. Furthermore, the All Things Form and Energy art could conceal one's aura, making it perfect for Yang Jian to hide his strength in the future. Guan wasn't worried about Yang Jian revealing the technique. as he himself would inevitably upgrade it further. Yang Jian began absorbing energy, following the power within him, while keeping his master's mental method in mind. As time passed, the medicinal soup in the cauldron started to boil. Yang Jian's skin turned hot red, but the pain in his skin was insignificant compared to the agony of tearing in his bones and muscles. Pain beyond imagination. The sensation of thousands of insects gnawing at bones, tearing muscles, couldn't begin to describe this agony. His master's voice constantly echoed in his ears, making him feel less afraid. With his master present, he felt inexplicably reassured. Just like the blood prison great saint had said, hold on a little longer, and soon it would be over. The pain intensified, and gradually, he began gritting his teeth. His hair fluttered, veins bulged on his face, and his body was drenched, making it hard to distinguish between sweat and medicinal fluid. Crunch, his body suddenly made a hair-raising sound, as if bones were grinding against each other. Even a blood prison great saint couldn't help but shiver. Can he really defy destiny? The blood prison great saint thought in shock. To him, Guan remained the omnipotent Immortal. He turned his head, seeing Guan standing by the lake with his back to the medicine cauldron, his calm demeanor earning even more admiration. For Guan, defying destiny seemed like it wasn't a difficult task. Little did the blood prison great saint know, Guan wasn't truly defying destiny, but merely helping Yang Jian restore his true physique. At this moment, Guan was multitasking, guiding Yang Jian's cultivation while using his divine sense to scan the ocean. He was searching for a suitable place for his next breakthrough. I wonder what realm lies beyond heaven and earth, flying immortal, Guan thought expectantly. With over 16 million years of lifespan, he felt he should be able to break through. However, he hesitated over whether to enhance his cultivation techniques and divine skills, as elevating them required investing tens of thousands or even more lifespan years. He feared he might not have enough lifespan left to break through afterward. Yang Jian suddenly let out a shrill scream, making the blood prison great saint's heart tighten. This seemed more painful than when he had absorbed the true blood of the divine beast. Guan didn't turn back, seemingly unconcerned about Yang Jian. The elixir he had given Yang Jian was extraordinary, worth 100 supreme-grade spirit stones, equivalent to 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. 100 million low-grade spirit stones. It was known that outer sect servant disciples only received 1 low-grade spirit stone per month as stipend. The treatment in Mystic Valley and the Third Medicine Valley was better, but not by much. With this elixir, Yang Jian might even make a direct breakthrough, depending on how much of the medicinal power his physique could absorb. Time passed by second. After a while of screaming, Yang Jian's voice suddenly stopped. The blood prison great saint widened his eyes in shock. Yang Jian slowly rose from the cauldron, still in a meditative posture. His black hair fluttered, skin glowing red. Strangely, he emitted a menacing aura, frightening the blood prison great saint. This feeling was like encountering a nemesis. Rumble! A thundercloud had quietly formed in the sky, brewing a mighty force. What kind of life grid is being altered? This is too overwhelming. The blood prison great saint thought in astonishment. Even with his divine beast blood-enhanced physique, he was intimidated by Yang Jian's presence, indicating how terrifying Yang Jian's physique had become. He turned to look at Guan, who remained unfazed. Seaman. Chapter 234. Only I can decide my disciples' life and death. Rumble. The sound of thunder continued to roar, causing the ocean around the island to rise and fall, with howling winds signaling the approach of a storm. Guan had his back to Yang Jian, his divine sense enveloping the sea area spanning thousands of miles, constantly on guard against any approach by a great cultivator. He wasn't worried about the celestial tribulation Yang Jian was causing, as such tribulations were insignificant over the ocean. Yang Jian's cultivation level was formidable enough that, Though terrifying, it was only a threat to cultivators of lower realms. Yang Jian still had his eyes closed, meditating in midair. His robe fluttered wildly as the nature's spiritual energy surged into his mouth and nose. Simultaneously, his pores expelled searing qi, enveloping him and making him appear extremely imposing. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, enduring unimaginable pain. His entire focus was on his inner being, completely unaware of the outside world, or even that he had floated up into the air. The thunder roared like a heavenly god, oppressively overwhelming. The blood prison great saint lay prone on the ground, his mindset now adjusted and filled with anticipation. He was eager to see what kind of defying fate Yang Jian would create. Bang! A sudden bolt of lightning struck down, hitting Yang Jian. In an instant, his robe was reduced to ashes, and his body turned charred. As the lightning subsided, blood began to seep from his skin, making him look ghastly. Within 3 breaths, he was transformed into a bloodied figure. Guan turned to look at Yang Jian, his gaze remaining calm. The blood prison great saint also remained composed, sensing that Yang Jian's life was not in immediate danger. One bolt of heavenly lightning after another struck down. Guan sharply noticed that these heavenly lightnings contained 5 elements spiritual energy. Could it be that Yang Jian's physique could directly absorb the 5 elements spiritual energy? No wonder such immense spiritual energy was needed to break through the constraints deep within his bone marrow. Too monstrous, thus unaccepted by the heavenly Tao. Gu An's expectations for Yang Jian grew. He wanted to see what kind of transformation Yang Jian would undergo. Yang Jian continued to endure the lightning strikes, his skin and flesh splitting open, blood splattering, yet his aura didn't weaken. Instead, it brewed an even stronger force. After around 30 minutes, Yang Jian's body was devoid of hair, his skin was completely charred, with white bones faintly visible at the joints. The might of the heavenly lightning reached a new height, causing the blood prison great saint to grow tense, fearing that Yang Jian might suddenly die. At this moment, Guan felt an aura rapidly approaching. It was a Nirvana realm cultivator, not too strong. As long as a loose immortal or higher did not appear, Guan wouldn't need to forcibly take Yang Jian away. Soon, a figure flew into the island, traversed the forest, and quickly landed by the lake. Without looking at Guan or the blood prison great saint, his gaze fixed on Yang Jian, filled with astonishment. Immortal seeking Taoist, Nirvana Realm 9 layers, 20489/25000/300000. Immortal seeking Taoist? This name seemed familiar. Guan suddenly remembered that Wuxin mentioned being taught the Taoist expansion skill by a divine monk who called himself Immortal Seeking Taoist. He didn't expect this person to be in Nirvana realm existence. In other words, during his weaker days, there was a Nirvana realm great cultivator in the Tri-3 halls. If he had recklessly seized life spans and grown rapidly, he could have very likely perished at the hands of a Nirvana realm great cultivator. This made him feel fortunate for having kept a low profile. Though named a Taoist, Immortal Seeking Taoist looked more like a monk, clad in a dark yellow monk robe and cassock, with a youthful and handsome face. Guan remained silent, but the blood prison great saint wasn't pleased. He grumbled, "Hey, smelly monk, who let you in? You come in without a greeting?" Since deciding to be Gu An's exclusive mount, his mindset had shifted. The monk could disrespect him, but he must respect his master. Immortal Seeking Taoist glanced at the blood prison great saint, smiled, then looked at Guan, cupping his fists in salute. "This humble Taoist is Immortal Seeking Taoist. May I know the honored name of Taoist friend? And what is your relationship with this person?" Guan calmly replied, "My name is Meng Lang. He is my disciple." Immortal Seeking Taoist noted that Gu An's aura only indicated a core formation realm cultivation level, but he didn't believe it, growing even more curious. Being unable to discern the other's true cultivation meant the other was likely far superior to him. He smiled. Taoist friend Ming, your disciple is extraordinary. His heavenly destiny exceeds the current world's limits. It should have been buried, but you discovered it. This world will change because of him. Guan asked, "Oh, did I make a mistake?" Not at all. The affairs of heaven and earth are about change. The old gives way to the new, and everything changes daily. There's no right or wrong. Immortal seeking Taoist smiled, his gaze then returning to Yang Jian, filled with wonder. Guan inquired, "Taoist friend, do you know what his physique is?" Immortal seeking Taoist pondered. This humble Taoist finds it hard to judge. He has the mysteries of the ancient 5 elements treasure body and the fierce qi and blood of the primeval tyrant body. 5 elements treasure body? Guan had once possessed the 5 elements treasure body, but had ascended to an innate Taoist body, transforming further into his current mystic holy body. Are the 5 elements treasure body and primeval tyrant body powerful? The blood prison great saint asked, making Guan quite satisfied with him. Good, he has potential. If Guan asked this himself, it would have lessened his status. Immortal seeking Taoist smiled at the blood prison great saint, saying, naturally, in ancient times, talent wasn't solely determined by spirit root attribute and qualification. Physique also played a major role. Those with treasure bodies, regardless of spirit root qualification, ultimately became legendary rulers of the immortal path. He began to recount the ancient treasure bodies he knew about. The exquisite treasure body, a physique of great comprehension, impervious to evil influences. The flame primordial treasure body, a body like blazing sun, which could transform into a glorious sun at its peak. The defying blood treasure body, where near-death situations trigger immense potential, possibly leading to permanent power increases. And so on. Immortal seeking Taoist described 8 types of treasure bodies, astonishing both Guan and the blood prison great saint. From his tales, ancient immortal paths seemed stronger than today's, with various treasure bodies thriving, myriad races standing tall, and even reincarnation existing, allowing the mighty to seek immortal opportunities through rebirth. Taoist friend, I hope today's events remain between us, Guan said. Immortal seeking Taoist had shown no hostility and shared much ancient lore, which spoke well of him, though not necessarily proving him absolutely good, but certainly not bad at the moment. Immortal seeking Taoist nodded. Rest assured, this humble Taoist doesn't wish to see such a promising figure fall either. Bang! Suddenly, Yang Jian erupted with a terrifying force, shaking the forest and causing ripples in the nearby lake. The thunderclouds emitted a red glow. A terrifying red lightning bolt struck Yang Jian, making him scream in agony. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation. Immortal seeking Taoist frowned, stating each word slowly. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation? Guan remembered this name. It was the tribulation he faced when breaking through to the void-crossing realm in his cultivating visions. This tribulation is odd, beyond what his cultivation should attract. It's a certain death tribulation. The blood prison great saint shouted in horror. This tribulation surpassed even his unification realm tribulation in intensity. He sensed the mystic dark heavenly tribulation still brewing, with the true horror yet to come. Immortal seeking Taoist took a deep breath and said, indeed, a certain death tribulation. It seems the heavens will not tolerate him. Guan thought of an Hao, who also had a 9,999-year lifespan, yet faced less intense tribulations. Could it mean that even within the same 9,999-year limit, talent varied? This number marked a human limit, but talent had no bounds. Immortal seeking Taoist said to Guan, the mystic dark heavenly tribulation is a tribulation of karma, not to be forcibly dispersed. Intervening would stain you with karma, leading to facing the same, or even stronger, tribulation yourself during a breakthrough. His face expressed deep regret. What a pity for such a promising seedling. Guan looked at Yang Jian and remained silent. Karma from the heavenly tribulation? Sorry, he didn't undergo tribulations, and he had faced this kind of tribulation in his cultivating visions, enduring it without assistance. He had made it through. Another bolt of lightning fell, this time even more terrifying. Guan's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly waved his sleeve. His long sleeve swept, directly dispersing the thunderclouds, allowing sunlight to shine down on Yang Jian. The tribulation dissolved instantly. Immortal-seeking Taoist's eyes widened in disbelief as he turned his head to look at Guan, who remained indifferent, serene. The blood prison great saint turned as well, wanting to speak, but holding back. Immortal-seeking Taoist felt the dissipating aura, and his eyes grew complicated. He sighed, "Taoist friend, why did you go to such lengths?" Guan looked at the blood-soaked Yang Jian and said, "Immortal cultivation is about enduring tribulations. So what if it's a different tribulation? Only I determine my disciple's life and death." How domineering. The blood prison great saint felt his blood boil. Following such a person was indeed a blessing. Immortal-seeking Taoist looked at Guan, opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. He raised his hand in salute, showing respect. Then, they both waited for Yang Jian to awaken. They could feel Yang Jian's qi blood rapidly strengthening. With the tribulation gone, ample spiritual energy rushed towards him, causing a profound transformation in his bones and marrow. After a long time, Immortal-seeking Taoist asked Guan, "May I ask where Taoist friend hails from?" "From the West." "The West? Have you heard of Immortal-seeking Island?" Guan glimpsed at Immortal-seeking Taoist, curiously inquiring. Immortal-seeking Island. Immortal-seeking Taoist. Could there be a connection? Immortal-seeking Taoist smiled. "So, Taoist friend knows Immortal-seeking Island. To be honest, I founded the island long ago, later passing it to my disciple. The fame it enjoys now is all thanks to him, not myself." The island master of Immortal-seeking Island was a wandering immortal, while Immortal-seeking Taoist was merely a nirvana realm cultivator. Indeed, one shouldn't judge solely by cultivation level. Background and connections also counted as strength. Guan reflected on this, and then engaged in polite conversation with Immortal-seeking Taoist. It wasn't until early the next morning that Yang Jian's transformation concluded. He leaped into the lake, washed his body, and then stepped ashore. Under the sunlight, he had grown a few inches taller, his skin fair and his muscles well-defined, exuding immense strength from merely looking at his upper body. Chapter 235 Post-Holiday Breakthrough. Looking at Yang Jian, who was now a completely different person, Guan smiled. Yang Jian had reached the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm in one go. His qi blood was even stronger than that of the Foundation Establishment realm, proving that Guan's elixirs and medicinal herbs had not been wasted. Of course, Yang Jian's physique surely still held more mysteries that needed to be uncovered through future cultivation. Guan took out a blue robe and tossed it to Yang Jian, who hurriedly put it on. The Immortal-seeking Taoist quickly walked up to Yang Jian and carefully looked him over. The more he looked, the happier he became, as if staring at a rare treasure, making Yang Jian feel very uncomfortable. "Young friend, your master is exceedingly good to you. Do you know what kind of tribulation you just went through?" The Immortal-seeking Taoist said. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian couldn't help but ask what kind of heavenly tribulation it was. Then, the Immortal-seeking Taoist began to explain the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and told him that it was Guan who had dispelled the tribulation, bearing great heavenly tribulation consequences as a result. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face changed dramatically. He hurriedly bypassed the Immortal-seeking Taoist and ran to Guan, kneeling before him. "Master, your disciple is not worthy of your actions. Your disciple let you down." Yang Jian's forehead touched the ground, choking with emotion as he spoke. He felt both moved and guilty in his heart. His master had changed his fate, not only by providing precious elixirs and medicinal herbs, but also by bearing the consequences of the heavenly tribulation. The depth of this kindness was immense. From childhood to adulthood, although he had not suffered hardships and had a happy family, ever since his spirit root was detected, his world had turned dark. Guan not only brought him hope, but also fulfilled that hope. Yang Jian knew well that his master could train other disciples and was not obligated to choose him, which made the weight of this kindness even heavier. Guan looked down at him and said, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, it is something a master should do. Get up now. I do not seek your repayment in the future, just that you avoid causing trouble and implicating your master." Yang Jian looked up and saw Guan blinking at him. He immediately understood that his master was joking with him, just like Master Puda's advice to Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. "Master, get up now. A real man doesn't cry. What kind of behavior is this?" All right, watching Guan and Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist felt deeply moved. He had a feeling that many years later, today's events would become a story as Yang Jian's name shook the world. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Taoist friend, our meeting is fate. I have a divine skill here that I would like to give to your disciple. Would you mind?" Guan said, "Jinner," quickly bowing gratitude to Senior. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian turned around, cupped his fists, and bowed to the immortal-seeking Taoist, thanking him for the divine skill. The immortal-seeking Taoist took out a secret book from his sleeve and handed it to Yang Jian. "Young friend, what is your name? I will keep an eye on your achievements in the future." Yang Jian took the secret book, first looking at Gu and seeing him nod. He then replied, "My name is Yang Jian." Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist, noted the name. He felt like he had seen it somewhere in a book before. Afterward, the immortal-seeking Taoist did not disturb the master and disciple any further and took his leave. Guan began to teach Yang Jian the heaven and earth primordial skill. The all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill were Gu An's foundation techniques. Even in how only practiced a lower version, showing how much Gu and valued Yang Jian. Yang Jian had been in the valley for many years. Though he didn't have an outstanding personality, Guan liked his honesty. This boy had ambitions, but did things steadily. He clearly wanted to get close to Guan, but never looked for a chance to face Guan directly. Instead, he dutifully served the Blood Prison Great Saint and the White Spirit Rat for years, which even Guan found amusing. In Gu An's eyes, Yang Jian was like an unpolished gem, and he looked forward to seeing what kind of person Yang Jian would become under his careful training. Guan did not seek Yang Jian's repayment in the future. Teaching Yang Jian was just an embellishment to his leisurely life. He merely wanted to teach a disciple, nothing more. In the evening, at the Third Medicine Valley, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint down from the transmission array platform, with Yang Jian following beside him. "Master, where have you been? I haven't seen you for 4 days." A passing an Xian asked curiously. Her eyes turned to Yang Jian, widening as she carefully examined him. "Just went out for a walk," Guan casually replied, then dismounted and walked alone towards the pavilion. An Xian immediately approached Yang Jian, examined him closely, and asked, "Are you really Yang Jian? How have you changed so much?" Yang Jian had already mastered the sorcery of the all things form and energy art, letting him conceal his aura, but he couldn't precisely disguise his realm. He said nervously, "Master gave me an elixir to temper my muscles and bones, so my skin has become a bit whiter." "I see. It looks like Master has accepted you as a closed-door disciple." An Xian smiled. She did not harbor any jealousy, as her master was far more powerful than Guan. Although the disciples of the Medicine Valley all called Guan Master, it was merely a term of respect with no actual relationship. Yang Jian scratched his head and smiled. Though still shy, he now exuded more confidence. The two chatted for a while, and more disciples noticed Yang Jian's changes, gathering around to inquire. In just a few days, Yang Jian seemed to have transformed from a countryside boy into a clean and handsome young gentleman, which was quite a shock for the disciples who knew him. Soon, the news about Yang Jian becoming Gu An's closed-door disciple spread, and because of Yang Jian's transformation, Guan became even more mysterious in the eyes of the disciples. In the days to follow, Yang Jian continued to do chores like other servant disciples, but he spent most of his spare time on cultivation, hiding in his room for most of the day. To prevent anyone from disturbing his cultivation, Guan arranged a separate courtyard for him. Yang Jian truly felt the change in status that came with becoming Gu An's disciple, making him even more grateful to Gu, and time flew by. Another new spring festival arrived. The Immortal cultivation world was already dominated by the Heavenly Rankings tournament. The Supreme Sect had set the specific date for the Heavenly Rankings tournament to be in 10 years during the Spring Festival. When Yilan and Zhenqin came to the Third Medicine Valley to visit Guan introduced Yang Jian to them and pointed out that he was his disciple. Because of this, Yilan even gifted Yang Jian a magic artifact. Zhenqin was very happy, considering herself his senior sister, and told him to come to the inner sect if he ever needed anything. Little did they know, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them to provide them with a backing. Since his physique awakening, Yang Jian had cultivated for half a year, raising his cultivation level from the 5th layer to the 6th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed was very fast, and it was estimated that he could form his core before the Heavenly Rankings tournament started. One should know that half a year ago, he was only a 3rd layer energy cultivation cultivator. Apart from the increase in cultivation level, Yang Jian's understanding of the all things form and energy art was very quick. It seemed he was naturally suited for body refinement. LV Batian also visited the Third Medicine Valley to speak with Gu and similarly introduced Yang Jian to LV Batian. In the room, LV Batian looked over Yang Jian, who was energetic, becoming more astonished as he gazed. This qi blood was extraordinary. Even though Yang Jian hid his cultivation level, his aura made anyone feel that he was not ordinary at first glance. Upon knowing that this person was the sect leader of the Supreme Sect, Yang Jian was very surprised. But compared to before, he treated others more composedly, a confidence that came from his strength. Moreover, he knew his master was a loose immortal, more powerful than anyone in the Supreme Sect. This secret was only known to him and the Blood Prison Great Saint, making him more proud. Your disciple is remarkable. It's a waste for him to be your disciple. Why not let him come with me to the inner sect for training? LV Batian said. Before Guan could answer, Yang Jian quickly responded. Thank you for your kind offer, sect leader, but I only wish to serve my master. I will never take a second master in this life. LV Batian's expression became strange. Guan chuckled and said, Naughty boy, how dare you interrupt when I'm speaking with the sect leader? LV Batian couldn't help but look at Guan. For some reason, he felt that Guan had changed. This change was hard to articulate. Auras. Yes, that was the feeling. From the moment he entered the room, he felt that Guan and Yang Jian shared a common aura, one that only the proudest of heaven possessed. Could it be that Guan had encountered a great opportunity? LV Batian pondered and then smiled. No harm done. Since he is your disciple, I wouldn't force it. Let's talk about the Heavenly Rankings tournament. Guan nodded, and the two began discussing the Heavenly Rankings tournament. Only then did Yang Jian learn that the Heavenly Rankings tournament, which had become the talk of the Immortal cultivation world, was his master's idea. Although a bit surprised, he was not shocked. What is the Heavenly Rankings tournament compared to this? His master was a loose immortal, definitely the most powerful in the world. Even the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao might not be his master's opponent. Sword Venerable Fudao's battle records were widely known, but the realm of his opponents was not clearly transmitted. At least, Yang Jian didn't know. An ancient hour later, the three descended the stairs. LV Batian did not leave, but stayed at the Third Medicine Valley for the festival, chatting with Guan. He found it very enjoyable, as Guan always inspired him, and there was no scheming between them. They could open up their hearts and drink freely. Yang Jian was also praised by many disciples. His wine cup rarely left his hand, making this the happiest spring festival of his life. Late at night, Guan came to Ninshu Cave, bringing fine wine and delicacies. He sat with Tian Yaoer, Tian Qing, and Tian by around a stone table. "Eat slowly, there's plenty more," Guan said, watching the three demons devour the food, laughing. He still wore a mask, which exposed his mouth so he could drink. Tian Yaoer put down the roasted lamb leg at her hand, wiped the grease from the corner of her mouth, and asked curiously, "Master, you seem very happy?" "Not bad. I accepted a disciple in the past half-year. He has excellent talent and constantly gives me surprises, so I'm naturally in a good mood," Guan replied, taking the opportunity to caution the three demons not to be lazy. Tian Yaoer frowned and asked, "Disciple? Male or female?" "Male, why?" "Nothing. Don't worry, Master. I won't disappoint you either. You'll spar with your disciple sometime in the future," Tian Yaoer said confidently. Guan smiled and agreed to the request. Although Tian Yaoer's maximum lifespan was longer than Yang Jian's, as a demon, it was not comparable. In terms of talent, Tian Yaoer could not match Yang Jian. Guan was more eager to see a spar between Hao and Yang Jian. After the Spring Festival, he planned to find a place to break through and then visit Hao. Chapter 236 Breakthrough to the 9 Layers of the Carefree Immortal Realm. New Year's just passed, and all things in heaven and earth began to revive. Guan walked through the air, admiring the ocean's scenery along the way. Although the rumors about the world-destroying sea tide were spreading far and wide, the ocean still looked calm, without the slightest sign of disaster. He spread out his divine sense, searching for a suitable place to break through. He was already very far from the continent, and his limitless freedom step had already crossed 100 steps. With his current cultivation level, he could step across a distance dozens of times that of the continent, showing just how far this sea area was from the continent. The spiritual energy of the beings in the ocean was exceptionally dense, far exceeding that of the continent. Moreover, the cultivation levels of the oceanic demon beasts were very high. He even saw a whale at the loose immortal realm, as large as half the continent, capable of swallowing the territory of 3 dynasties in one gulp, exaggeration to the extreme. Upon arriving here, the aura of human cultivators became rare. The occasional aura felt belonged entirely to Immortal Path realm cultivators. Without a cultivation level at the Nirvana realm, one couldn't enter the sea area. Finally, Guan's gaze locked on a grand sea island. The island was teeming with life, even housing a power formed by hundreds of thousands of demons, with most of the demon soldiers training in the plains. The strongest demon had reached the 2nd layer of the loose immortal realm. The 9th layer, heaven and earth flying immortal realm, Gu and stealthily sneaked into the forest, meditating under a tree and activating the lifespan barrier. He did not immediately attempt to break through, but instead spread out his divine sense, observing the situation all around. Within the range of his divine sense, he felt the aura of wandering immortals. Fortunately, there were no heaven and earth flying immortals. Heaven and earth flying immortals were always few in numbers, not visible to mortal spirits. After all, they could leave this world. When Guan expanded the range of his divine sense to its maximum, he still did not see any heaven and earth flying immortals, finally putting his heart at ease. Though he couldn't see any heaven and earth flying immortals at sea, if he looked up at the sky, he could daily see the figures of heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going like meteors streaking across the sky. Guan retracted his divine sense and pulled up the attribute panel. Name, Guan, lifespan, 128/16890-764. Physique, mystic holy body, cultivation level, heaven and earth flying immortal realm 9th layer. With 10 million years of lifespan invested, could I break through to a higher realm? The 8th to ninth layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm cost 30,000 years of lifespan. To reach a higher realm, failing once would mean waiting for more than 30,000 years before trying again. Failing 100 times would cost at least 3 million years of lifespan, which made him shudder just thinking about it. If he could use 10 million years of lifespan to break through to a higher realm, he would consider himself lucky. So he dared not upgrade his cultivation technique or physique, deciding to brute force his way in the realm instead. Guin took a deep breath and first invested 1 million years of lifespan to test the waters. You cultivated through energy absorption for 50,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. You cultivated through energy absorption for 100,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation, and failed. Crossing the tribulation every 50,000 years? A bit harsh. Guin looked at the constant failure prompts before him, feeling somewhat panicked. 1 million years of lifespan resulted in just 20 failures. It would take 5 million years of lifespan to fail 100 times. The more Guin thought, the more anxious he became. His heart hardened, and he directly invested 5 million years of lifespan into cultivation. Fail! Fail! Guin couldn't even be bothered to look closely, just seeing that as long as the prompt didn't grow longer, it meant all failures. After all, 5 million years of lifespan ultimately went down the drain, another 100 failures. This carefree, primordial, immortal realm was truly difficult to break through. No wonder he had never even heard of it in the real world. There were legends of heaven and earth flying immortals above the sea, but no tales of carefree, primordial immortals. Guin pulled up the attribute panel again, and seeing there were still 10 million years of lifespan left, his heart settled a little. Another 5 million years of lifespan. He didn't believe he couldn't break through. Series of prompts crazily popped up, and within the lifespan barrier, spiritual energy never surged, and the leaves above his head swayed with the wind, producing rustling sounds that made Guin feel malice. It was as if the lifespan barrier was mocking him. The second 5 million years of lifespan all ended up in failures. He had already spent 11 million years of lifespan, failing 220 times to cross the tribulation. If he upgraded his cultivation technique and physique first, today, would he be unable to break through? But even if he didn't break through, at least his strength would have increased like now. If he ultimately failed, he would have gained nothing. Guin couldn't accept such a failure, so he continued investing, this time putting in 500,000 years of lifespan. Constant failures appeared before him, but finally, a prompt suddenly lengthened, surprising him with joy. It worked. You cultivated through energy absorption for 350,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation. You survived the ultimate reincarnation, heavenly tribulation successfully, and your cultivation level advanced to the first layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 410,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the second layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 470,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the third layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 500,000 years. Your cultivation level increased. 60,000 years for a small realm advancement. This carefree primordial immortal was truly fierce. Guin felt sentimental. The lifespan barrier finally began to function, and earth spirit energy surged into his body. He didn't remain idle. continuously investing lifespan into his cultivation. His cultivation's small realms could only be at the 9th layer. He wasn't used to presenting himself as an observer below the 8th layer, lacking a sense of security. Eventually, he spent another 490,000 years of lifespan to attain the 9th layer of the carefree, primordial, immortal realm. The 8th layer to the 9th layer shockingly cost him 150,000 years of lifespan. This breakthrough took nearly 12 million years of lifespan to reach the 9th layer of the carefree, primordial, immortal realm, an utterly terrifying figure. Boom! The earth rumbled, and spiritual energy soared like a tide, covering the grass within the barrier. All spirit energy on the entire island and the surrounding sea area abruptly plummeted, startling all beings into panic and chaos. The influence of the lifespan barrier continued to expand. The spiritual energy required from the 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm to the 9th layer of the carefree, primordial, immortal realm was immense. After a few breaths, ocean demons erupted from beneath the sea. Heaven and earth were in an uproar. The island fell into a clamor as the demons roared deafeningly. Guin saw shape-shifting demons flying over the forest, thinking an enemy was attacking the island. Guin closed his eyes and began to feel the changes within himself. He wanted to see what the carefree, primordial, immortal had that made it so hard to break through. After 30 minutes, a flood of profound insights exploded in Guin's mind like the universe's Big Bang, infinite information pouring into his consciousness. Heaven and earth rules. Heaven and earth flying immortal required cultivating the path of 5 elements to perceive higher realms. With the 5 elements perfection, one could perceive the heaven and earth rules. All things in the world were composed of the unseen and untouchable power of rules. The 5 elements were the foundation, as stated in the Tao Te Ching, that Tao produced 1, 1 produced 2, 2 produced 3, and 3 produced all things. The carefree, primordial, immortal was the realm of perceiving the rules of heaven and earth. Reaching this realm meant being completely unbounded by the constraints of heaven and earth, completely carefree. The primordial spirit underwent a baptism by the rules of heaven and earth, reaching transcendence. His golden core and mystic heart were transforming into higher existences. The golden core was accumulating the power of heaven and earth rules to form his Tao. What was Tao? Tao encompassed everything: cultivation techniques, spells, divine skills, etc. Everything about his existence was his Tao. The golden core generated the Tao, transforming into the primordial elixir. No wonder the nascent soul and golden core independently existed. The nascent soul transformed into the primordial spirit, and the golden core transformed into the Tao. Guin guessed they would merge at some future realm, making him the incarnation of the Tao. Time flew by quickly. As Earth's spiritual energy sank faster, the clouds above churned violently, as if ready to collapse with the spiritual energy. The island's demons were terrified, assembling in formations and hiding within the island, not daring to come out. Fortunately, no demon intruded into the lifespan barrier. After an hour, Guin successfully transformed into a carefree, primordial immortal, breaking free from heaven and earth rules, truly carefree. Wherever the Tao existed, the mind could reach. What was the existence of Tao? Places and beings inheriting Guin's Taoist sorcery were where the Tao existed, enabling him to easily escape and control their causes and effects. Guin realized the way of cause and effect was a unique Taoist sorcery. As his realm increased, his mastery over cause and effect grew deeper. The so-called cause and effect were the invisible forces produced by the interaction of all beings. There were cause and effect, and gathering endless cause and effect together was the world. After a major realm breakthrough, Guin's cultivation level began to surge. The primordial elixir had already deduced his Tao, and all the cause and effect related to him would appear in his Tao. He was moving towards the realm of omniscience. First, understand all his cause and effect. At higher realms, who knows if he could comprehend all cause and effect? After 3 hours, night fell, and Guin finally reached the 9th layer of the carefree, primordial, immortal realm. His divine sense range was expanding continuously. Perceiving the lifespan barrier's extraction range of Earth spirit energy significantly exceeded his 9th layer heaven and Earth flying immortal realm range. Due to this immense scope, no one, not even a demon, could detect the focal point of spiritual energy's descent. When the Earth's spiritual energy ceased flowing into Guin, he slowly stood up and opened his eyes. He instantly transformed into an aurora and vanished from the spot. Then, he arrived in front of a mansion. As it was late at night, the streets were empty, but the mansion within was brightly lit. He looked up, and the signboard bore 2 words: G Mansion. Through the Tao of his primordial elixir, he arrived at the G Mansion where his cause and effect resided. Yes, it was arriving, not teleporting. Arriving wouldn't produce any signs between the 2 places, breaking free from the rules of heaven and earth. Arriving at another place from a higher dimension. He was essentially traveling within his Tao. This feeling was truly marvelous. Guin walked towards the G Mansion, the place of his birth and childhood. Taking a step past the main gate, he walked within the courtyard. An old servant carrying a lantern walked towards him, passing through his body. This, too, was the mystical nature of the carefree, primordial immortal. Mortal spirits couldn't see, mortal spirits couldn't touch. No wonder there were no legends of the carefree, primordial immortal. For the first time, Guin felt invincible. Chapter 237. Soul of the G family ancestor. Late at night, the G Mansion was dimly lit. Guin walked leisurely through the corridors, and childhood memories kept surfacing. As the starting point of Guin's life, he had deep feelings for the G Mansion. From childhood to adulthood, he lived quite well in the G Mansion. Apart from the incident when he smashed the flower bed and was nearly punished by having his hand cut off, he had a good life without being bullied by other G family members. Although there were occasional conflicts among the house servants, it never escalated to a point of deadly enmity. Having not returned for 100 years, the G Mansion felt both familiar and unfamiliar to him. What was familiar were the furnishings and environment, which had not changed much. What was unfamiliar were the people. There were many branches of the G family, and the G Mansion he was in was just one among many, with branches spread across 3 generations. Before the demon catastrophe, the G family had hidden in the 7 stars spirit realm. Only the main family and the high-ranking and talented disciples went into hiding. After the catastrophe, those who had hidden in the 7-star spirit realm returned to their respective homelands to continue developing the family. Guin even saw branches of the G family on the ocean, though they stayed close to the mainland, not daring to venture far because the demons in the ocean were powerful and high-level demons could be encountered frequently. The person with the highest cultivation level in this G Mansion was in the unification realm. Back then, those in the unification realm were beings he had to look up to. Suddenly, Guin detected a faint soul aura, piquing his interest. He immediately walked toward that direction. Along the way, figures passed by him. He even walked through the courtyard walls as if everything there was illusory to him. Guin saw a familiar face, the court guardian who almost cut off his hand back then. 100 years had passed. The guardian now had gray hair and looked aged. He no longer appeared fierce, but rather kind and gentle. Guin merely glanced at him, having no thought of seeking revenge. Indeed, it was his fault for smashing the flower bed back then. The guardian was just doing his duty, and now their realms were worlds apart. Why should he hold a grudge? The G Mansion was large, and Guin walked leisurely, as if on a casual stroll. An hour later, he arrived at the place where the mysterious soul resided, which turned out to be the ancestral hall of the G Mansion. He passed through the door and saw rows of spirit tablets, all of G family's ancestors, and the soul was hidden within the main spirit tablet. Guin approached the spirit tablet, noting the name on it. Jijan. A soul was hidden deep inside the spirit tablet, an old man, lying on his side, seemingly napping. He was hidden in the power of cause and effect, not in an ordinary exotic space, where beings couldn't detect his presence with divine sense. Jijan turned over as if dreaming, unaware that someone was spying on him. Guin cast lifespan detection on him, but the data came back as 0, not even displaying his realm. In the unseen, Jijan had countless connections with the entire Ji mansion, threads of cause and effect among them, one involving Ji Xiaoyu. Jijan was an ancestral bloodline of Ji Xiaoyu. Following Ji Xiaoyu's line of cause and effect, Guin saw a segment that was very blurry, even to his eyes. Ji Xiaoyu's cause and effect seemed off, giving Guin an eerie feeling as if Ji Xiaoyu had suddenly become someone else at a certain stage. Looking closely, the change seemed to occur when Ji Xiaoyu was 10 years old. He did not dwell on it, for he wasn't here to investigate Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu possessed the primordial Taoist talisman, so having special causes and effects was not surprising. Guin did not stay long and quickly turned away from the ancestral hall. Deep within the spirit tablet, Jijan suddenly turned over and sat up. He scratched his head, muttering, "Strange, just now I felt a sense of unease. Could it be that the Ji family is facing another calamity? Blame it on that 7-star spirit realm. Sigh, the current generation truly lacks ambition, always relying on others. I can only watch and hope that she can restore the Ji family to its former glory." Jijan lay down again and continued to sleep. For him, time had no meaning. He was accustomed to indulging in dreams, enjoying the reincarnations he created for himself. At dawn, the sunlight swept from the horizon. Qi stood on the beach, frowning as he gazed into the distance. His face was pale. During the battle in Divine Exotic City, he had been stung by the immortal swallowing scorpion from the 7-star spirit realm, and the scorpion venom had not been fully purged from his body. A figure emerged from the forest behind him. It was Qi Jiuxiao, the genius from the Star Sea congregations. "Master, how that kid was really outrageous. I passed on my divine skills to him, and he mastered them last night. It's simply unnatural," Qi Jiuxiao cursed as he approached, resentful of Hao's extraordinary talent. He had indeed been defeated, acknowledging that Hao's talent and comprehension surpassed his own. Qi did not respond, still staring into the distance. "Master, what are you looking at?" Qi Jiuxiao couldn't help but ask when he saw his master lost in thought. Qi snapped back to reality and said, "The spiritual energy over the sea seems unusual. I suspect there is an anomaly somewhere, possibly related to the recently rumored world-destroying sea tide." Qi Jiuxiao frowned and said, "What world-destroying sea tide? It must be the 7-star spirit realm causing trouble. That huge rift appeared too coincidentally." Qi did not reply, thinking those comments were pointless. At that moment, a 7-colored radiance descended from the sky, landing beside them, instantly drawing their attention. They turned to see a figure within the radiance. It was a mysterious figure enveloped in dark purple demonic qi. Qi Jiuxiao's eyes widened. Sword Venerable Fudao? Qi could not forget the scene where Guin easily killed 2 wandering immortals, and he quickly bowed. No matter what, the other had saved his life, so he should pay his respects. "Thank you for looking after my disciple all these years," Guin said. Qi was about to speak when Guin suddenly appeared in front of him, reaching out with his right hand. 2 fingers pointed at Qi chest, rendering him immobile instantly. "Master!" Qi Jiuxiao was startled, instinctively wanting to rush forward. "Stay put," Qi shouted, even using his mana to restrain Qi Jiuxiao. "The senior is detoxifying me." Qi took a deep breath and said slowly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. As Guin's mana entered his body, he suddenly felt insignificantly small. In the face of this power, The wandering immortal realm was so weak, vulnerable. How powerful were the heaven and earth flying immortals? Although Chi Bei was a wandering immortal, he lacked the confidence to reach the heaven and earth flying immortal realm in the future. It seemed only one great realm apart, but he couldn't imagine how to break through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Qi Jiuxiao was overjoyed at his master's words. He had been constantly worried about his master's poisoning, feeling helpless and anxious. He never expected Hao's master could purge the immortal swallowing scorpion's poison. After a few breaths, Guan withdrew his hand and said, "I'd like to spend some time alone with my disciple." Then he turned and walked into the forest. Qi Jiuxiao quickly bowed, not daring to obstruct him. Qi Bei felt the poison in his body dissipating, and with it, the weight on his heart. He looked at Guan with awe. Such a terrifying poison, yet he could easily expel it. Little did he know, Guan could have eradicated the poison instantly, but deliberately prolonged the process. Even so, it was beyond Qi Bai's reach. Qi Jiuxiao quickly came to Qi Bai's side, concerned about his condition. Deep within the island, hundreds of miles away in the mountains, a house sat cross-legged on a mountainside, cultivating. Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer. Still stunning. Guan stood behind Hao, reflecting on his current cultivation level. Hao was now only 94 years old, and a 94-year-old cultivator in the Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer, would surpass Li Xiandao in no time. Hao was still the fastest cultivator Gu had ever known. At 128 years old, having reached the 9th layer of the carefree immortal realm, Guan said, "Based on your cultivation level, you haven't been slacking." Hao abruptly opened his eyes, turned around, showing a look of surprise and joy. He quickly stood up, excitedly asking, "Master, what brings you here?" Guan replied, "I came to check on you." Hearing this, Hao became even happier, rushing to Guan, asking various questions, losing his usual composure. In front of Guan, he still seemed like that lively, mischievous boy. The master and disciple talked for a long time before Guan got to the point. "How is your practice of the Yang, wood primordial skill progressing?" Hao's spirit root qualification was strong, not because of a single root attribute, but because each of his spirit roots was of heavenly spirit root level. In other words, Hao could cultivate the 5-element skill. Practicing the heaven and earth primordial skill was not considered abandoning his current practice because the two cultivation techniques were from the same origin. "Very well, I have already cultivated the Yang wood. This spiritual wood can absorb spiritual power, and it's quite domineering." Hao eagerly described his accomplishments, not wanting to disappoint his master. After he finished, Guan said, "I will teach you a higher-level cultivation technique. The Yangwood primordial skill is just one foundation of this technique." Upon hearing this, Hao's eyes lit up, and he quickly nodded. "This technique cannot be disclosed, as it may attract calamities. Also, your tribulation crossing will be more difficult than cultivators of the same realm, so be mentally prepared." Guan reminded him, and Hao suddenly realized, heavenly tribulation is related to the cultivation technique? No wonder my tribulations always astonish others. Guan continued, saying, "Recently, I have taken on another disciple. Your junior apprentice's qualification is also outstanding, not inferior to yours. As the senior apprentice, you must set an example and not be surpassed by him." "A junior apprentice?" Hao frowned, feeling a sudden tension. If someone else had said this, he would have dismissed it, believing no one could match his qualifications. But hearing it from his master, he didn't doubt it. There was someone with qualifications comparable to his, possibly younger, giving him a sense of urgency. "Master, what is my junior apprentice's name?" Hao cautiously asked. "One day, you will meet and get to know each other because you are cultivating the same technique." Guan answered, "Could it be Leah?" Hao thought of the Taitsong divine shocking sword that Leah had used. Soon, he dismissed this guess. Leah was older than him and wasn't considered a genius, at least in his eyes, quite ordinary. Chapter 238. 7 Days in Outer Heaven. Vast expanse of heaven and earth. After passing down the heaven and earth primordial skill to Enhao, Guin didn't linger longer and quickly left the island. In the sky, he saw the distant ocean stirring up massive waves, originating from the place of his breakthrough. The spiritual energy he consumed during his breakthrough was enormous, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to sink, inevitably shaking the ocean. Fortunately, that sea region did not have any human-occupied mainland. The demon creatures surviving there all had cultivation levels, so even if the island was flooded, they wouldn't die. Besides, the waves just swept across rather than raising the sea level. Guin just glanced at it and did not give it much thought, avoiding any burden on himself. He harbored good intentions and avoided harming innocent beings as much as possible. Still, if his cultivation inadvertently affected innocent lives, he couldn't help it, and he would not stop his progress. Upon returning to the Supreme Sect, Guin first wandered around the Mystic Valley. Lu Jujia and the servant disciples were already accustomed to days without Guin. Although Guin often visited the Mystic Valley, everyone knew that his focus was on the inner sect's Medicine Valley, which they understood. Without Guin, they felt no pressure. Half an hour later, Guin arrived at the third Medicine Valley. Compared to the Mystic Valley, the third Medicine Valley was much livelier. Guin stepped down from the transmission array platform, looked around, and saw the past of every servant disciple before his eyes. Immortal Spirit's century-long life was just a fleeting moment for him. Guin looked at an Exant, peering into her past, and sure enough, he saw his own figure. He could see the past of mortal spirits, and so could other carefree, primordial immortals. This made him more grateful for his choice. Luckily, he stayed in the Supreme Sect. If he had roamed the world, the increasing causality would have attracted the attention of hidden, carefree, primordial immortals. If such transcendental beings found his growth speed unreasonable, it would have been troublesome. Guin walked to the wooden fence in the garden area, looked up, and found his vision far beyond before, feeling more and more that the great heavenly spirit land was vast. The name Great Heaven and Earth was indeed well-deserved. This continent was already vastly broader than Earth in his past life. It was like dust in the entire great heaven and earth. As his field of vision expanded, he saw more heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going. He could even see the scenes beyond heaven, a splendid star sea with breathtaking spectacles, with starry lights resembling celestial rivers, filled with countless stars like great waves sifting through sand, and gigantic nebulas like cosmic trees guiding all beings. Guin's gaze was drawn to the sun, illuminating heaven and earth. Outside the great heaven and earth, there were not just one, but 7 enormous suns, orbiting around the great heaven and earth under some mysterious rule, allowing every place within it to maintain a regular pattern of 4 seasons and day-night cycles. With his eyesight, he saw that each of the 7 suns contained a mysterious being. They were colossal, with various forms. Some were birds, others beasts, and even human-like figures, instilling awe. The sun's surface had a power barrier that prevented Guin from seeing their true forms, which also made lifespan detection impossible. Guin merely glanced before looking away, avoiding disturbing the beings within the suns. Carefree primordial immortals could easily cross the sky to the outer universe, but he didn't want to go for now. Staying at the Supreme Sect was good enough. He had no urgent enemies, so exploring was unnecessary. He could now roam the world freely, with the mystique of a carefree primordial immortal. If he wished, no life below a carefree primordial immortal would see or touch him. Guin looked towards the distant heaven and earth, his vision extending rapidly for countless miles. A vast expanse of ocean swept past his eyes. He saw more prosperous continents and scenes of life fighting, including wars, battles between immortal great cultivators, and giant spirit beasts revered as divine beasts roaming the world, with countless mortals kneeling in worship. There were also many places his vision could not penetrate, indicating that they might be home to carefree primordial immortals. Such places were either far from the mortal world or within extremely prosperous human or demon lands. Guin even saw a continent full of immortal beings, with the lowest cultivation being the Nirvana realm, which amazed him. Fortunately, that continent was incredibly distant. Even Nirvana realm cultivators would find it difficult to cross because the journey was fraught with dangers. He had just seen a loose immortal swallowed by a mysterious giant sea demon, an event that happened so suddenly. The loose immortal was just passing by at an immense speed beyond mortal sight, yet was still devoured, perishing instantly. Guin felt as if he was exploring. This kind of peering brought him novelty. The whole world seemed to reveal its true face before him, making him unable to stop. He did not know how much time had passed. Yu Ying came beside him and asked, "What are you thinking about? Why have you been staring blankly for so long?" Guin withdrew his gaze, looked at her, and smiled gently. "I'm thinking about how vast the Star Sea congregations are and how broad the world outside is." Yu Ying laughed and replied, "If you want to go to the ocean, I can arrange it for you. As for how large the Star Sea congregations are, even I, who was born there, am unsure. The sea area occupied by the Star Sea congregations is thousands of times larger than this continent, and that's just my estimation." Guin nodded slightly. The territory of the Star Sea congregations indeed exceeded the continent's size by thousands of times, but it did not seem vast to him because he could see even further. He wondered if there were carefree, primordial immortals in the Star Sea congregations. Guin thought that even if there were, they would not be in the mortal world. Though Guin could see the other side of the mortal world, he did not find the existence of carefree, primordial immortals. It was just hard to see them, but he could not be sure they did not exist. Perhaps carefree, primordial immortals could not spy on each other. Therefore, this realm was called carefree. Speaking of which, the internal assessment of the Star Sea congregations is about to start. I wonder if Xian Tianyi will make a name for himself this time. Yu Ying said, her face full of reminiscence. When Guin heard this, he couldn't help but ask, "Is there a threshold for the internal assessment?" Leah, Zhang Buku, and how had already joined the Star Sea congregations. Guin looked forward to seeing them make a name for themselves. All three had received his inheritance. If they could thrive in the Star Sea congregations, he would naturally be pleased. No, anyone under 1,000 years old can participate. By the way, Leah from the Supreme Sect is expected to take part. That divine exotic city is a fake immortal treasure. So many prodigies will want to compete with him. Yu Ying smiled wickedly, with an expression of anticipating someone to be embarrassed. The two of them continued chatting, the topic revolving around the Star Sea congregations. Although Yu Ying did not want to return, she spoke with pride about the Star Sea congregations, often belittling the Supreme Sect. This made Guin look forward to the future of the Supreme Sect. The future was long, and there was no rush. Who could tell if the Supreme Sect would be more powerful or the Star Sea congregations more prominent in 10,000 years? Although Guin had already reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal stage, his life had just started at 128 years old. Not to mention the future, he was very much looking forward to tomorrow. After chatting with Yu Ying for a while, Guin moved to another place to continue observing the great heavenly spirit land. They all seem profound and hard to master. Guin replied, "Take it slow. There's no need to rush to break through the cultivation realm. You can start by laying a solid foundation." Yang Jian felt it made sense. Following Guin in cultivation meant he had all the elixirs he needed and no usual expenses, so he didn't need a hurry. "Master, when would you be willing to participate in the Celestial Ranking Tournament?" Yang Jian suddenly asked, his tone full of anticipation. Chapter 239. This time I win. Since being given a life-altering destiny by his master, Yang Jian believed that his master was the most powerful cultivator in the world. No one, be it the sword venerable Fu Dao, Taoist lord, where the super-powerful forces like the seven-star spirit realm and star sea congregations could match his master. He wanted to see his master renowned across the world, for as his disciple, it would be a moment of pride. Guin looked at him with a stern expression and said, "Are you cultivating to seek fame or to pursue immortality? If it is fame you seek, then go to the mundane world, where you can become an ultimate martial expert." Yang Jian thought his master was angry and quickly replied, "Of course it is to pursue immortality. Master, I was wrong. I was just curious after hearing other disciples talking about the ranking competition." Guin did not let him off so easily, using this opportunity to temper his character. In a heartfelt tone, he said, "Not to mention your current physique is against the laws of nature. If others learn about it, it may bring disaster upon you. There are many who are aware of their heavenly destiny. I am strong, but there are always others out there stronger than the likes of loose immortals. A cultivator should cherish what they already have rather than recklessly seize opportunities. Do not flaunt, do not underestimate the common people of the world." Yang Jian felt ashamed, filled with guilt. Recently, he indeed had developed a sense of pride, seeing other disciples in the valley struggling with basic qi cultivation, while he was already at the foundation establishment level, feeling superior. "Though I do not seek repayment from you, I do not want you to become someone who acts recklessly. Since you are cultivating immortality, you ought to understand that there is a heavenly destiny beyond human efforts. If you stray down the wrong path, you will eventually be punished by the heavens. I do not wish for you to become someone who seeks vainglory. Do you understand?" Guin continued, bringing tears to Yang Jian's eyes. Yang Jian was not moved by grand principles. It was hearing his master say once more that repayment was not required that touched him, making him feel unworthy. He knew exactly what he was thinking. Even though he was reborn anew, his heart still harbored selfish desires and a darker side, making him feel ashamed of himself. Look at his master, clearly an immortal, yet never bullying the weak, humbly staying within the supreme sect, living among mortals without arrogance. He should learn from his master and become a true cultivator. "Master," Yang Jian began, but was interrupted before he could finish. "Let's go back." Guin turned and left, with Yang Jian quickly following. At the end of summer, Guin rode the blood prison Great Saint back from Tinya Valley. Along the way, the blood prison Great Saint kept cursing 3 monkey demons and even begged Guin to release some of his cultivation, at least to the core formation realm. "No rush. It's good for tempering your character. You are too impetuous. Your words can hurt. Without proper tempering, you will bring calamity upon yourself sooner or later," Guin said nonchalantly, holding a peculiar book in his hand that Luo Han had obtained from Li Xiandao. According to Luo Han, this book was comparable to the Green Hero Travelogue. Indeed, the Three Dynasty land had many literary talents, and there were always those who could write better than Xian Tianyi. This book was not a travelogue, but a collection of tales about the romance and scandals in the imperial city. The blood prison Great Saint lost his spirit upon hearing Guin's words. He knew his faults, but once he got into an argument with someone, he couldn't quench his anger without giving them a good beating. Zhou has developed hostility towards you and harbors killing intent. Would you like to perform lifespan detection on him? Zhou, the former venerable pavilion of the Supreme Sect? Guin frowned, wondering why this guy had suddenly developed a killing intent towards him. Could it be related to Wu Ju? The Zhou family had already left the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. At least the disciples of the Supreme Sect regarded the Zhou family as traitors, especially given their choice of the Sangtian sect. To this day, Sangtian sect was the Supreme Sect's biggest rival. The disciples believed that to become the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world, they must surpass the Sangtian sect. Guin spread his divine sense across the entire continent, searching for Wu Ju's presence, and quickly found him. Wu Ju was at the border forests of the Taizong dynasty, in a dilapidated temple. Besides him, there were several other cultivators present, standing off against him. At this moment, Wu Ju frowned deeply, his hands clenched in a fist inside his sleeves. Zhou Yu, dressed in a black robe, stood in front of him, exuding authority. The other Zhou family cultivators looked at Wu Ju with disapproval. Wu Ju, our Zhou family has invested a lot of resources in you. Without the Zhou family, you wouldn't be who you are today. Are you really going to forget our kindness? A female cultivator said sternly. Others chimed in, with most of them hinting at threats in their tone. Wu Ju gritted his teeth and said, "The Supreme Sect has also been kind to me. Wouldn't joining the Zhou family be a betrayal of that?" Zhou Yu slowly spoke. Although the world is peaceful now, more and more ocean cultivators are arriving. The immortal cultivation world will face a catastrophe sooner or later. As far as I know, even the sect leader and supreme elder do not know the true identity of Sword Venerable Fudao. If there ever comes a day when Sword Venerable Fudao leaves, the supreme sect would be quickly annihilated. Wu Ju firmly responded, "Impossible. Why would the supreme sect alone face destruction? Is the Santian sect absolutely safe? Besides Sword Venerable Fudao, there are other great cultivators in the supreme sect. I believe the supreme sect is stronger than the Santian sect." In saying this, he was severing ties with Zhou Yu, who now served the Santian sect. Zhou Yu's expression turned ugly, and he said, "Think carefully. Betrayal of the Zhou family will make you our enemy. Out of respect for our master-disciple relationship, I can let you go today, but in the future, I will kill you to uphold the Zhou family's reputation. Not only you, but anyone associated with you will die, such as your only brother in the supreme sect, Guan. Besides Guan, all your friends in the main city of the sect will also die." Zhou Yu truly did not want to let Wu Ju go, as Wu Ju's perception was too formidable. He believed Wu Ju could rival in Hao, that Santian sect had no talent comparable to in Hao. Moreover, Wu Ju had no background and was alone. In the future, he could marry into the Zhou family, continuing the lineage of exceptional talent. Upon hearing this, Wu Ju's expression turned grim. He tried to keep calm, took a deep breath, and asked, "Since when did you start investigating me?" When Zhou Yu mentioned Guan, Wu Ju panicked. "So, the Zhou family still had spies within the supreme sect." Zhou Yu said calmly, "From the day you became my disciple, I understood all your relationships. It's not too late to turn back now. You can even bring those you care about into the Santian sect in the future." This time, he didn't mention Guan, because he couldn't draw on Guan, knowing Guan was actually Pan and close to LV Batian. The thought that Guan could influence Wu Ju meant that LV Batian might be able to win over Wu Ju, inflaming his killing intent. Why should LV Batian have both and Hao and Wu Ju, these two peerless talents? Wu Ju fell into a struggle. If the Zhou family came only for him, he wouldn't be afraid. But since it involved Guan, he had to hesitate. His talent and perception were top-notch, and he believed he could become a world-shaking force. But he was still young and needed time to grow. The Zhou family, in his eyes, was a colossal existence, one he couldn't challenge alone. The Zhou family still had spies within the supreme sect. He couldn't keep an eye on Guan all the time. What if one day a Zhou family spy attacked Guan? He couldn't bear to imagine such a scenario. Damn it! Wu Ju clenched his fists, staring at Zhou Yu with eyes ablaze. Zhou Yu sighed and said, "Disciple, actually Boom! A sudden thunderbolt struck down with a speed that left Wu Ju and the others no time to react, hitting Zhou Yu and sending everyone flying from the blast. Wu Ju hit the wall, but quickly stabilized himself, looking over, and his eyes widened. Zhou Yu had vanished. The spot where he stood was charred black and smoking. The other Zhou family cultivators were wide-eyed, their expressions stunned. "Master," a disciple called out quickly, but received no response. "Not good. There's a supreme sect great cultivator nearby," a female disciple shouted and disappeared, followed by the other cultivators, forgetting all about Wu Ju. Wu Ju stood in a daze, hesitated for a moment, and then chose to leave. On the way out, He couldn't help but wonder if Zhou was dead or alive. Who could have struck that thunderbolt? It couldn't have been a coincidence that Zhou was struck by natural lightning, right? Elsewhere, Guan, still riding on the blood-prisoned Great Saint's back, felt bored with the mere 92 years of lifespan gained from killing Zhou. I hope the Zhou family knows their place and stops developing hostility towards me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless, Guan thought silently. While he continued to choose a low-profile approach to cultivation, he was not someone the Zhou family could provoke. Fortunately, in the days that followed, no one from the Zhou family developed hostility towards Guan. No one believed that a newly formed core formation cultivator like Gu and could have killed Zhou, a cultivator of the 9th layer of the unification realm, out of thin air. The one who killed Zhou must have been at the Mystic Heart realm or even the Mahayana realm, which was an obvious warning from the supreme sect to the Zhou family. In a bright grand hall, thousands of cultivators gathered. The vast palace was expansive, with a hallway over 100 feet wide and rows of transmission array platforms on either side, with cultivators constantly teleporting in. And Hao stood in place, curiously looking around at everyone. I heard that this entrance exam involves Liya from Divine Exotic City. Divine Exotic City? Could it be that Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? Yes, that Liya is indeed lucky. Who knows how powerful he is with the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? I hope he can't use the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. How could we compete against that? Without using the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, he's just a minor cultivator from the barbarian continent. Nothing noteworthy. And Hao listened to the disciples' discussions around him, filled with mixed emotions. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure was enormous, and Liya's name had reached the Star Sea congregations, making the new disciples who were about to enter the sect hostile towards him. Just as he was thinking, a voice called out, "And Hao, long time no see. This time it's my turn to win." And Hao turned his head to see two men walking towards him, one of whom exuded demon energy. It was Liya and Zhang Buku. Liya appeared confident, eyes fixed on Hao, while Zhang Buku looked full of curiosity. Chapter 240. Sworn to protect, looking at Liya, who was full of fighting spirit, and Hao remained unmoved. If it had been before, he might have expected to spar with Liya, but now his mind was occupied only with that junior brother he had never met. Liya possessed the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure and was no longer the same as before, and Hao naturally did not consider himself a match for Liya. However, excluding the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and Hao truly did not think Liya was qualified to be his opponent. Liya thought he was timid, so he said, "Don't worry. When I spar with you, I won't use that treasure. But if it's against others, I won't hold back at all, and he'll show off our supreme sex might." Zhang Buku stood beside them and snorted, "I don't mind if you use that supreme treasure. In fact, I want to test its sharpness." And Hao looked at Zhang Buku. He had met Zhang Buku before, at a time when Zhang Buku and Liya were already inseparable, though they had not yet become acquainted. He found Zhang Buku very interesting and could feel the immense strength of his chi blood. In terms of real strength, he was certainly stronger than Liya. "What's your name?" And Hao asked Zhang Buku, staring at him. Zhang Buku replied, "My name is Zhang Buku. I'm Liya's brother." Liya's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. And Hao nodded and then said nothing more, turning around. Liya became interested, stepped forward, and said, "The three of us come from the Supreme Sect and have joined the Star Sea congregations at the same time. Regardless of victories or defeats in the future, how about mutual support?" And Hao nodded without objection. In his heart, the Supreme Sect held a high position. Helping fellow disciples was only natural to him. Liya and Zhang Buku stepped forward and stayed beside Hao, starting to chat and share their past experiences. And Hao initially didn't care, but as he listened, he became captivated by their experiences. Were these two so eager for battle? Very soon, Zhang Buku and Liya started arguing, each blaming the other, and Hao suddenly felt a bit envious of them, as they could rely on each other no matter where they went. Thinking of his junior sister, an Xian, Ahau couldn't help but sigh. Even he felt that the heavens were unfair. While Liya and the others wandered in the Star Sea congregations, far away at the Supreme Sect, Guin and his disciples lived their lives as usual for 10 years. 10 years passed in a flash. Guin's age reached 139. That summer, the Heaven Ranking Tournament, hosted by the Supreme Sect, was about to begin, plunging the Supreme Sect into an unprecedented state of prosperity. In the Third Medicine Valley, within a pavilion, Guin looked at his attribute panel. His lifespan had recovered to 8 million years, and he was secretly satisfied. When he broke through to the carefree primordial immortal, the lifespan barrier alone cost him nearly 1 million years of life. In 10 years, he had gained more than 4 million years of life, which was quite stable. Next, Guin planned to aim for 100 million years of life, at which point he would comprehensively enhance his attribute panel before breaking through to higher realms. Although it seemed far off to gain a 100 million year lifespan in just 10 years, Guin was not anxious. He still had a trump card, which was the outer world cave heaven. The 7th order medicinal herbs in the outer world cave heaven couldn't mature in just a few decades, and every month, Guin brought in high-rank seeds. What Guin was currently thinking about was collecting an Immortal Path Spirit tree. Last year, during a private auction held by Sage Tang Hai, an Immortal Path Spirit tree appeared, but unfortunately, its price skyrocketed. Guin could not afford it due to his regular purchases of high-rank medical herbs. The other party was a great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations with deep pockets and an astonishing background. Guin had not resorted to robbing for a single tree. There was no need to make enemies, as an Immortal Path Spirit tree would not gain him 1 million year lifespan at once. Moreover, at that time, the Supreme Sect and the Star Sea congregations were on good terms. His disciple, Ahau, was also comfortably staying in the Star Sea congregations. There would be another chance in the future. Seizing this heaven ranking tournament, Guin planned to amass wealth. He was looking forward to the upcoming excitement. He stood up, preparing to head for the Mystic Valley, as an acquaintance had returned. After coming downstairs, Guin called over Yang Jian, then rode with the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley through teleportation. The disciples of the Mystic Valley had all seen the Blood Prison Great Saint and Yang Jian over the years, so they knew of their relationship with Guin. Guin did not go upstairs but began patrolling the gardens in the valley, with Yang Jian and the Blood Prison Great Saint following. After 10 years, the 32-year-old Yang Jian had already reached the 2nd layer of the core formation realm. At such an age with such cultivation, he was among the top-tier talents of the time. Considering that Yang Jian, at the age of 20, was only at the 3rd layer of Qi cultivation realm, his talent was immeasurable. Yang Jian still concealed his cultivation, appearing to be at the 7th layer of Qi cultivation realm. Yang Jian, who practiced the all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill, had an extremely powerful Qi blood. Guin judged that cultivators of the nascent soul realm couldn't withstand his strength. With Guin's teaching, Yang Jian had grown more steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, showing the demeanor of a true disciple. I heard the Taoist lord of the Sangtian sect has arrived. Yang Jian chatted with the Blood Prison Great Saint about the Heaven Ranking Tournament. The Blood Prison Great Saint was also very interested, and the two only talked about others, not their own cultivation, a habit developed under Guin's long-term instructions. After a while, a figure flew from the distant sky. It was Liya. Yang Jian turned his head to look, curiosity showing in his eyes. What a powerful aura. Liya came on his sword, like an immortal descending from the sky. After sheathing his sword, he quickly walked to the edge of the garden and greeted Guin. Guin smiled and said, "Senior Brotherly, what brings you here? Wait for me for a moment." Liya nodded, his gaze inadvertently falling on Yang Jian. Although Yang Jian's cultivation was low, his demeanor was extraordinary. What is this person's relationship with Junior Brother Gu? Liya thought to himself. After a while, Guin handed over medicinal herbs to his servant disciple, then led Yang Jian towards Liya. He introduced Yang Jian to Leah, asking Yang Jian to greet him. Yang Jian greets Uncle Master. Yang Jian clasped his fists, neither humble nor overbearing. Although Lia's aura was strong, it couldn't compare to Guan. If Guan hadn't concealed his cultivation, the two wouldn't be considered fellow disciples. Leah, hearing this, curiously asked, "Is it the Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods?" Yang Jian nodded and said, "I loved reading the Investiture of the Gods since I was a child, and I changed my name to symbolize my aspiration after joining the sect." Leah smiled, then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag and gave it to Yang Jian. Yang Jian looked at Guan, and only after seeing Guan nod did he accept it. Leah pulled Guan towards the pavilion, while Guan beckoned Yang Jian to follow, causing Leah to hesitate. "Jinner is my truly accepted disciple, whom I've taught everything I know. Let him follow us and broaden his horizons," Guan said with a smile. Leah, hearing this, took another look at Yang Jian. He understood Guan's implied meaning. "I see. If you ever encounter trouble while adventuring out there, you can always come to me, your Uncle Master," Leah said with an air of spirit, to which Yang Jian quickly expressed his gratitude. Guan found it amusing. Leah had guessed his intention correctly, but got the relationship wrong. He wasn't setting Yang Jian up with a backer, but the other way around. After the three went upstairs, Leah began recounting his experiences within the Starseed congregations. He had already become a true disciple of the Starseed congregations, although his cultivation was the lowest among them, relying on the divine exotic city. Although Yang Jian had joined later, he had heard of the divine exotic city. Unexpectedly, the Supreme Sect cultivator who seized the divine exotic city years ago turned out to be his Uncle Master. He suddenly suspected that Leah had obtained the divine exotic city with help from his master. "By the way, I heard there was an internal assessment in the Starseed congregations. Did you participate?" Guan suddenly asked. Lia's expression instantly became unnatural. "I did, and I got quite a good ranking, entering the top 100. I became a true disciple based on my own strength." Guan didn't believe it. Over the years, Leah had used the power of the divine exotic city quite often. "I heard Hao also participated. What was his ranking?" Guan continued to ask. Lia's expression became even more awkward. Yang Jian's eyes lit up, and he asked, "Master, are you talking about the #1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao?" "That's right, it's him." Yang Jian fell into contemplation. Leah ambiguously said, "His ranking was also good. Without using the divine exotic city, I indeed couldn't match him." Guan curiously asked, "What do you mean? Did you two meet again?" Leah felt aggrieved. Was Junior Brother Gu doing this on purpose? Trying to embarrass me in front of a junior? He did indeed run into an Hao. He had subdued many great cultivators with the divine exotic city. But when facing an Hao, for the sake of fairness, he didn't use the divine exotic city and ended up disastrously defeated. This incident became widely known inside the Starseed congregations, and Hao made a name for himself by stepping on him, leaving him very frustrated. Although frustrated, he did not regret it. Hao had always been his goal to chase. He wanted to know how far apart their real strengths were. Guan chuckled, knowing his disciple had defeated Leah. He felt a sense of satisfaction. This kind of attitude was not good. Guan changed the topic, talking about the Heaven Ranking Tournament. Leah said the reason he came back was that the Supreme Sect had sent a message asking him to return. The Supreme Sect needed the power of the divine exotic city to deal with great cultivators from overseas. After all, this was the first Heaven Ranking Tournament hosted by the Supreme Sect. LV Baitian hoped to maintain the title of #1 in the world, even if the opponents were cultivators from Holy Lands or great cultivators from overseas. Guan felt LV Baitian was not being fair, but he couldn't criticize. Dharma treasures were part of a cultivator's strength. Besides him, who on the immortal path didn't rely on Dharma treasures in combat. Senior Brother Lee, what do you think of my disciple? 500 years from now, they'll have him participate in the Heaven Ranking Tournament. Maybe he will even encounter you then, Guan said with a smile. Leah glanced at Yang Jian and said, His cultivation is a bit low. To compete for the #1 position in the world, he still needs a big opportunity. Yang Jian remained silent, standing honestly aside. Guan laughed and said, "In any case, I believe my disciple has great chief fortune." Chapter 241. Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Will you battle me? Liu returned this time and brought many gifts for Guan, including immortal cultivation medicinal herbs and overseas magic artifacts. When Guan tried to make some polite conversation, Liu didn't bother with the pleasantries and left directly through the window, leaving Guan in silence. Yang Jian also marveled at what a peculiar person this uncle master was. Although Liu seemed unreliable, Yang Jian still held a good opinion of his actions and words. Just based on Li Ya's previous declaration that he would protect him to the death, Yang Jian acknowledged him as his uncle master. After staying in Mystic Valley for a while, Guan took Yang Jian and Blood Prison Great Saint to the Outer Gate City. With the approaching Grand Tournament, cultivators frequently flew across the sky, not just from Supreme Sect but from all over the world. No matter the outcome of the Grand Tournament, Supreme Sect was set to gain substantial benefits this time, and Guan was eager to see how much profit Supreme Sect would share with Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Days passed by. 5 days later, though the weather was hot, the inner and outer gate city was crowded due to the imminent start of the Grand Tournament. In front of the South City Gate, countless cultivators gathered, forming a vast sea of humans, their heads bobbing, creating a spectacular scene. Following their gaze, in the sky stood an array platform surrounded by 72 large flags. With a diameter over 100 miles, its base emitting a faint golden light, forming a golden platform that blotted out the sky when looked at from below. This array, known as the Luotian Floating City Battle Array, was purchased by Supreme Sect from Star Sea congregations, specifically for great cultivators to compete in combat at a huge cost. Maintaining this array required massive amounts of spiritual energy. It was said that Supreme Sect had already channeled the spiritual energies from their underground spirit lineages into the array. Every city and medicine valley within Supreme Sect had formations projecting the scene of the Luotian Floating City Battle Array. These transmission formations were not very expensive, so even Mystic Valley had an array set up by Supreme Sect, allowing all disciples in the valley to watch the match. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples gathered in the pavilion area, some meditating on the ground, some sitting on benches, looking up at the light screen in the sky, waiting for the Grand Tournament to begin. Before the combat even started, the disciples were already excitedly discussing. Guan sat by a stone table, savoring pastries. Yang Jian, and Xian, Xiaochuan, and Yu Yingying sat at the same table, also discussing the Grand Tournament. The names of each great cultivator were mentioned from their mouths. Over the past decade, many oceanic great cultivators had established their fame in the 3 dynasties, making it uncertain who would claim the title of the world's #1. These ocean cultivators temporarily stayed in the 3 dynasties region, leaving many opportunities behind, promoting the development of the immortal cultivation world and establishing a reputation for virtue and greatness. Yu Yingying mentioned an ocean great cultivator named Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord. Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord claimed to be the reincarnation of an immortal, possessing vast divine skills. The Star Sea congregations tried to recruit him but were refused. His whereabouts were mysterious, like a dragon glimpsed but never seen fully. He liked to teach beings with mediocre talents, earning admiration. She believed Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could claim the first position in the Grand Tournament. Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, "Why are these ocean great cultivators meddling in the Grand Tournament? Isn't this bullying?" Yu Yingying replied, "Although the 3 dynasties region is weak, the 7-star spirit realm in the mainland is not. As long as cultivators from the 7-star spirit realm participate, other great cultivators will be drawn in, all wanting to establish their fame by stepping over the 7-star spirit realm. Of course, there might be undercurrents I'm unaware of, This grand tournament is indeed unusual, with so many great cultivators joining. An Exion nodded, saying it said there are 500 participants, with half coming from overseas. The three dynasties' cultivators only make up a third. Besides Liya, the weakest among them is in the Mystic Heart realm. Many withdrew after seeing the participant list, leading to the current situation. Yang Jian remained silent, gazing at the illusion in the sky with yearning in his eyes. The title of the world's #1 was certainly mesmerizing. Guan didn't join their discussion. He knew the level of participants in the grand tournament better than anyone. Currently, 5 loose immortals had gathered within Supreme Sect. The number of Nirvana realm cultivators reached 17, and there were over 100 Mahayana realm cultivators. If nothing unexpected happened, Sect within the 3 dynasties couldn't hope to claim the first position in the grand tournament, or even make it into the top 20. The only hope lay with the supernatural cities Liya. Moreover, Guan sensed a wandering immortal's presence, hidden in the mountains outside Supreme Sect, purpose unknown. This grand tournament was no longer just a test among the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Guan wasn't worried, though. If Supreme Sect faced destruction, he would intervene. If they weren't in danger, he wouldn't act even if Supreme Sect lost. One must accept their inferiority. Until noon, the Luotian floating city battle array finally changed. Wind and fire swirled, entangling the dragons, causing them to grow rapidly, their heads piercing the top of the Luotian floating city battle array. At that moment, the thunderclouds suddenly parted, revealing a vast starry sea in the sky. All creatures' eyes reflected the resplendent starry sea, magnificent and fantastical. He didn't see him make a move. Already having formed his core, Yang Jian felt he had a deep understanding of immortal cultivation. But today, his master's technique overturned his comprehension. The vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was high above, far from the third Medicine Valley. No one would have thought that sword Venerable Fu Dao was hiding here. Yang Jian had thought that sword Venerable Fu Dao was up in that vast starry sea, overlooking all beings. At that moment, the stars in the vast sea burst into light, and one by one, stars began to fall, more and more, densely packed, with a momentum that suggested the sky was collapsing, bringing the clamor of heaven and earth to a sudden halt. All beings looked up, their eyes wide and silent, as if witnessing an immortal phenomenon. Countless stars fell, bursting with sword chi, causing the trees of the mountains and rivers to sway violently, and dust to be swept away into the distance. Within the intersect city, Liya stayed in a courtyard, looking up at the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, secretly alarmed. Could the Taitsong divine shocking sword reach such a degree? He turned his head to look at the divine exotic immortal spirit on his shoulder, and asked, could divine exotic city withstand this sword with its power? Withstand? I almost got killed by him, and you're asking me that? The divine exotic immortal spirit, feeling the sword intent from the sky, could confirm that sword Venerable Fu Dao was indeed his master. He replied, not sure. His voice, full of childishness, contrasted sharply with his inner thoughts. Liya continued watching the light screen in the sky, wanting to see if Sage Bai Luo could withstand a single strike from sword Venerable Fu Dao. Facing the endless stream of star sword energy, Sage Bai Luo shouted angrily, raising his staff as surging mana flowed into 2 azure dragons, which were wreathed in fierce flames and strong winds as they soared into the sky. The dragon's roar exploded. Countless people held their breath. Numerous streams of star sword energy fell, colliding with the dragons in midair. The gigantic azure dragons, ridge-like, were blocked abruptly. Starting from the dragon's head, they were shattered one after another, dissolving into azure winds sweeping across the world. In an instant, the 2 azure dragons were obliterated by the star sword energy, The power of the sword chi was unstoppable. Sage Bai Luo was illuminated by the sword light. His eyes widened, filled with fear. As the relentless star, sword energy poured into the Luo Tian floating city battle array, a resplendent sword light erupted, causing heaven and earth to lose color, and countless beings to close their eyes. Blinded, only the sound of the wind could be heard. Several breaths later, cultivators gradually regained their vision. As more and more people opened their eyes, when they saw the scene within the light screen in the sky, their hearts raced. The Luo Tian floating city battle array remained, but its golden light at the base fluctuated violently, on the verge of dispersing, while Sage Bai Luo, kneeling inside, maintained a raised staff stance. The staff in his hands was only half remaining, smoldering, and he was covered in blood, his hair disheveled and utterly battered. Sage Bai Luo trembled all over, his bulging eyes bloodshot. The infinite starry panorama was slowly dissipating, signaling the end of the battle. Sage Bai Luo's heart filled with endless fear. Luckily, he had sought battle before the heavenly ranking tournament. Otherwise, at any other time, he might have perished. He couldn't even withstand a single move from Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Gritting his teeth, he wobbled to his feet, turning and flying towards the horizon, rapidly escaping the Luo Tian floating city battle array and disappearing to the edge of the sky. When he came, he was wildly boastful, but when he left, he was a defeated silence. Heaven and earth erupted in thunderous cheers. So strong. This is the strength of Sword Venerable Fu Dao? That Sage Bai Luo was so arrogant before. Who would have thought he'd be defeated so completely? If the sect leader hadn't set the rules, I bet he'd be dead. No kidding. One Sword Venerable Fu Dao makes a move. Who can survive? It said the vice sect leader survived. Could he also be an immortal? Disciples of the Supreme Sect jeered at Sage Bai Luo and praised the overwhelming power of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Even disciples from other sects were excited, though the great cultivators preparing for the heavenly ranking tournament grew tense. After this battle, they dared not act recklessly. The sword intent, just now, had snuffed out any fighting spirit. The morale of the Supreme Sect soared, the sect bustling as if celebrating the new year. Once the sword intent illusion above the sky completely disappeared, the Luo Tian floating city battle array also returned to its full state. The first match of the heavenly ranking tournament, Zhou Zhu of Heaven Sect versus Gu Xian of the Supreme Sect. LV Baishan's voice rang out again, this time brimming with dominance, as if he were Sword Venerable Fu Dao himself. Following his words, Zhou Zhu and Gu Xian flew into the array. Zhou Zhu's face was complicated, while Gu Xian looked spirited. They exchanged a few words. Judging by the mouth movements, it seemed Gu Xian was mocking the Zhou family's choice. In the third Medicine Valley, Guan stood up and said, "You all keep watching, he'll go fetch something from inside." And Xian and Xiaochuan nodded, while Yu Yingying remained immersed in the grandeur of Sword Venerable Fu Dao. Yang Jian watched Gu An's departing figure, his mind speculating. He didn't bother thinking about the fate of Sage Bai Luo. Instead, he began to recall the magnificence of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. Could there be a carefree, primordial immortal in the seven-star spirit realm? Guan fell into contemplation. Regardless, after today, the seven-star spirit realm would be fully targeting Sword Venerable Fu Dao. It was necessary to probe the depths of the seven-star spirit realm. If there was no carefree, primordial immortal, it must be eradicated. Gu An's heart harbored killing intent. Without exterminating the seven-star spirit realm, he wouldn't feel at peace. Chapter 243, The Pressure from Sword Venerable Fu Dao in the Third Medicine Valley. Guan went downstairs and returned to the stone table, where he watched the grand battle of the Tian Bang tournament with the disciples. Killing Sage by Luo earned Guin a lifespan of more than 7,000 years, which wasn't too bad. Sage by Luo was over 70,000 years old. He hadn't broken through a minor realm in over 10,000 years, so he had been searching for immortality opportunities for many years. The seven-star spirit realm targeted his needs to lure him into action. Guin did not sympathize with Sage by Luo. People always have to take responsibility for their choices. What he was considering now was how to deal with the seven-star spirit realm. If the seven-star spirit realm hadn't plotted against him, he might not have confronted them. After all, delaying time was more beneficial to him. The first match of the Tianbang tournament had not yet ended. It was difficult for great cultivators of the same realm to determine a winner. Gu Xian and Zhou Zhu both had Mystic Heart Realm cultivation and evidently had a real grudge, using all their skills to the fullest, providing a feast for the spectators' eyes. It is said that the Zhou family has withdrawn all its disciples from the Supreme Sect, while the Gu family has done the opposite, fully supporting the Supreme Sect. Both sides are clashing, likely hiding a battle of pride. With Sword Venerable Fu Dao around, how could the Zhou family be so short-sighted? Who knows what kind of bewitching potion that Song Tian's sect gave the Zhou family? It is said that until now, Sword Venerable Fu Dao has not attacked other sects, so those sects might hold on to illusions, thinking they have a chance to win him over. The combat between Mystic Heart Realm cultivators is already so fierce. I cannot imagine what the battle between Mahayana Realm cultivators would be like. The Supreme Sect was abuzz with discussions about the Tianbang combats, and the grudges between the Zhou family and the Supreme Sect spread throughout cities and towns. And Xian and Xiaochuan, who were beside Guin, were discussing this matter. Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations ridiculed the Zhou family for their stupidity in believing that Song Tian's sect's nonsense. In her view, the only reason Sword Venerable Fu Dao stayed at the Supreme Sect was due to a sense of affinity. The combined resources of the Three Morning Land couldn't possibly entice him. Yang Jian was also pondering what charm the Supreme Sect had to keep his master there. The first match of the Tianbang tournament concluded with Gu Xian's victory. As the host, the Supreme Sect gained considerable prestige. Even the overseas cultivators had to change their views on them. Guin desired longevity, and before reaching the other shore of longevity, he couldn't comfortably enjoy fame. Leah was different. He yearned for freedom and fame, walking a path completely different from Guin's. Guin did not think his path was wrong. After all, not everyone had the ability to steal lifespans like him. If he didn't have that ability, Guin would also have to go on the run, risking everything for opportunities. Guin eagerly anticipated seeing how far Leah could go, whether he could transcend heavenly destiny and achieve nirvana. Leah's ultimate lifespan had not increased until now. Within the Luo Tian floating city battle array, Leah stood proudly with a divine exotic immortal spirit perched on his shoulder. The small, pitch-black creature bared its teeth and claws at Leah's opponent, looking very cute. Leah's opponent was an old man in a Taoist robe with third-layer Nirvana realm cultivation. At this moment, facing Leah, the man's expression was solemn. He silently cursed the Supreme Sect for their shamelessness. Dealing with Leah, even if he won, it would not be a fair victory due to the significant gap in their cultivation levels. But if he lost, he would be utterly embarrassed. Why didn't they arrange a loose, immortal opponent for Leah, who had an immortal path supreme treasure? Were they using him as a whetstone? The Taoist-robed old man took a deep breath, drew out his Dharma treasure, and prepared for battle. Leah said nothing and directly summoned the divine exotic city. The divine exotic city flew out of his body, rapidly expanding and transforming into a phantom that enveloped his figure, continuously occupying space inside the array. The appearance of the divine exotic city caused a clamor throughout the Supreme Sect. Most cultivators were seeing the divine exotic city for the first time, and they were very excited. With the divine exotic city visible, the battle's outcome was already predictable. Although it was a duel between Liya and the Taoist-robed old man, in reality, it was the divine exotic immortal spirit fighting on behalf of Liya. However, inside the divine exotic city, Liya would also bear some pressure. If he faced a wandering immortal in a prolonged battle, the divine exotic immortal spirit might be undefeated, but Liya could be shaken to death. Of course, there were no wandering immortals in the Tianbang tournament. The only wandering immortal had already been slain by Guan. The following battle had the spectators entirely appreciating the power of the divine exotic city. The endless swarms of divine soul demons surged out, their combined aura both awe-inspiring and terrifying. After Liya's victory, the atmosphere of the Tianbang tournament reached its peak. Guan saw Shan Zhen still sketching the divine exotic city in front of his cave residence. A month passed quickly, and the participants in the Tianbang tournament had been reduced from 500 to 30.